Yeah, what's cracking, what's popping, what's shaking, everybody? Welcome to the 34th episode of the Comic Cinematic Universe with Chill and Grace. I am Chill. To my right of the screen is Grace. Grace, what's up?
What's up, everybody? I like that intro.
Yeah,
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. And like just kind of saying the number 34 out loud. Um, I'm just thinking back as far as say, as of yesterday, I've started to download some of these episodes from YouTube, like the whole episodes, because I'm gearing us up, Grace, to not only have us here on YouTube, but possibly on some other DSPs audio wise that you can actually hear whenever you want. So I'm kind of in the middle of, or actually just starting to download these and kind of converting them. So I'm super excited. I want us to be more out there, you know. I know this is listen everybody, this is news to Grace. I haven't really talked to her about it, but I honestly just thought about it yesterday, and yeah, I want to kind of move forward and put us more out there.
And we've talked about this like in terms of just like long term. We're like, we want to be on Spotify. We want to be on this for you guys and just be more accessible, for like the car rides, but you don't have like the YouTube Plus thingy where you can just listen to things even though your
Right.
phone's like turned off.
Right.
So
My girl jokingly said, she's like, "Listen, like I don't want to have to fumble because I don't have the YouTube Plus and I have to figure out YouTube while I'm driving. I'd want to listen to it." So yeah, that's what kind of sparked the idea. We talked about it before, yeah, Grace and I, and I'm hoping, hopefully by just give me maybe like, I'm gonna say a few months to get it all set up. Maybe like 2 or 3 months. I'm gonna take the time to download them all, then convert them, and then actually see what the process is to upload on multiple DSPs. So we'll see. Either way, I'm sorry for the long intro, but we got a couple things to chat about today. Today, on top of wrapping up Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I in our title I called it the finale because this has just been a long, long. We hey that our last episode was actually our longest. I think that's the 2.5 hour mark. So we spoke a lot on Doctor Strange and we're wrapping that up today. And as of yesterday, the trailer for She-Hulk dropped, and there was a lot of juicy stuff in that minute or two, you know. So Grace and I are ready to break down that trailer. So Grace, which would you want to start with? Did you say you wanted to start with She-Hulk?
yeah, let's go ahead and start with She-Hulk because I think Multiverse of Madness, knowing us, is going to just take a good chunk of the time.
Sure.
So let's get She-Hulk out because there's a lot to talk about there. This is like the first like full look. Little special thing that they were doing. I think we saw like a snippet of She-Hulk, correct?
I don't remember if it, I don't know. I just remember it looked like there was like a retro VHS like look of Banner and her kind of looking kind of like they were in the 70s. That's all I can remember from that, but if
Mm.
I recall, I don't even remember seeing more than just images. Was it actual like film footage?
It was like very short snippets. It was like the first look of her, and I think it wasn't like an official teaser. I think it was more so just like snippets as a part of like Disney Plus's. I don't know if it was like the. I'm like trying to remember. We broke it
It
down and
was
we
months
talked about
ago.
it like
It was
ever
months
so
ago.
briefly. But this is the official like first look of the show. We get to get a feel of what it's going to be about. And what are your initial thoughts just from what we saw earlier this week?
I loved it. There were multiple things that made me honestly, I'm gonna say tingle. You know what I'm saying? I had the Peter tingle. But anyway, when it came down to it, let's start from the beginning. Okay, so say from the trailer, I remember I didn't know that her and Banner were related, but they kind of established that here at the top of the trailer, he calls her cousin. So of course they're cousins. Were they cousins in the comic?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. So they kept that here in the show, that storyline here, and I think they made it clear that whatever law firm she's working with, they're making her like lead counsel when it comes to superhumans, you know. So um I like it just because no matter what who like no matter who she is, whether she's she Hulk or not, and regardless of this first season, let's say kind of going forward, I'm already thinking that she's going to be representing known characters that we know of, you know,
Hmm.
aside from like I didn't see anything too revealing. uh I think if anything they made it clear that her law firm is representing Abomination. Do you think like that's the case here?
I mean, it seems like it would be, and I think it makes so much sense for them to have this division, especially this many years into superheroing that we are in, and Earth 616, which we can call this world to be now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it makes so much sense for them to have this, just like they have like after they have like a cleanup crew for like all of the damaged buildings that the Avengers just happened
Right,
to kind of
right.
dismantle. It's kind of like an addition to that level of world building, which I thought was really cool, and I think it's a good way to kind of have this new character for us, at least in the MCU,
Mm-hmm.
have like a stepping stone into like our world, if that makes sense. Like, I think this is a good way for her to be established, not just being connected with Hulk, which we already love as a character,
Mm-hmm.
but also kind of adding to this world building that we have, which I think is a good move on their part when introducing a new character, you
But
know?
let's say, as far as story wise, because say this is the title is She Hulk, Attorney at Law, right? So if they're going to build a show off of that, you know, why not? Uh, why not incorporate? Actually, no, never mind. Because I was gonna go a totally different route, but I'm sure in the comics this is what she did in the comics. She represented superhumans, right?
Honestly, I don't think I've had like a deep dive into her comics enough to say. I mean, I can probably Google it super quickly and tell you right now.
But yeah, like
But
I was thinking, like what I was really just about to finish was saying is like, why not involve like Matt Murdock in this situation? You know?
I was thinking the same thing. I feel like it would be so cool if like somehow there's some like strong Easter egg, either of them passing in like a courtroom or like something like that. I feel like it would just be such a cool way to kind of like, keep like the fans being like, okay, no, we haven't forgotten about this character. We're, I think, loading up a TV series. So did you see that news
I
come out
saw that
this week
yesterday. I think
potentially?
it came out yesterday or the day before. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
already kind of in the works of putting a show together, and super excited. But let's not chat about that. We're here just because I'm ready to just to be like just because of the love of the Netflix series. I'm just curious just to see what Disney's gonna do. Okay, I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. But as far as here in She Hulk, I, I can see them passing, you know, in some
Mm,
way, shape, or form, just because of them both being lawyers in this universe.
absolutely. And in terms of just like the premise of the film, because obviously it looks like we kind of hop into her already having the Hulk gene, we will call, which is basically just like the radiation.
Mm-hmm.
In the comics, she did receive a transfusion after, like, I think it was an accident. And since Bruce is her cousin, he's a match. And to save her life, they gave her the transfusion.
Mm.
But as a result, she became She Hulk. And it looks like, Bruce is trying to help her, I guess, control and manage, right? Because obviously, like, She Hulk comes through with like very extreme emotions and anger and all these things. And we see her
Mm-hmm.
in this like cubicle that's almost resembling like the one we see in Multiverse of Madness.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it looks like that it'll maybe follow that same premise. Like maybe she did have to receive the transfusion. Now that she, has to deal with being, like Hulk, Bruce is just kind of helping show her the ropes, and so she's not a danger to herself or other people.
I swore. I'm sorry. I'm looking for the image. I swore I actually had the image of those two. Oh, I have it right here. Sorry, I wanted to put it up of us actually. It's the shot that this is what we did see. I remember we saw this before, uh, for D23, where you have, let's say, Bruce to the left and outside of the pod, and I think she's inside of the pod, and she's
Hmm.
about to become, uh, the Hulk, and we see it in this trailer. Him kind of pushing that boundary just so she can transform, you know.
Hmm.
So, say if this show is about, let's say, she had this quote unquote gene, as opposed to, because I actually like the idea of them, if they have to, uh, doing the transfusion in this series, just because, as far as the stories that I know of the Hulk, somehow he got it from his dad, but I don't see how that would translate to getting from her getting it, you know?
Oh, so when I said Hulk Gene, I said that jokingly. I don't think that's going to be a plot
Oh
point in
yeah,
this.
I was taking you seriously. I was like, oh
No, no,
damn.
no.
Okay.
I have a feeling they're going to follow like the storyline in the comics. Like I feel like if anything, like we'll learn she was in an accident, that she needed to get a transfusion from Bruce, and Bruce obviously knowing about the transfusion because he, like, I'm sure, volunteered to like willingly participate.
Mhm.
Is now like, okay, like I'm gonna show you how to handle like having been contaminated with like the Hulk essence, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? To, being able to control, like the anger and all these things so that she's not a danger to anybody. So
Right.
it's an exciting thing. I mean, it's the theme of this phase of like the passing of the mantle. And I feel like this is the most like ingrained version we're going to see it,
Right.
because it's
Right.
literally like you don't have a choice. Like you have to learn how to do this.
Right. So let me ask you: do you think it'll get to the point to where she ever hulks out, or do you think she's always going to have the conscious of herself, not like being a Hulk? Like, do you ever think she's just going to become what we know the Hulk to come to be? You know?
I mean, I'm sure she's gonna have that same struggle. You know what I mean? I imagine that's why they're doing what I'm gonna call like these training sessions to begin with. So I'm sure we're gonna see some level of it. But it looks like, at least like from what we're seeing, she's gonna kind of
Be in control,
get the
right?
ropes pretty quickly because she's already like in a lawyer like outfit and everything. So um or maybe that is what the whole season is. Like maybe she's having such a hard time like managing her life as a lawyer, Jennifer Walters, and then also being able to do that without letting She-Hulk unleash, and then eventually maybe she finds that happy medium that where like Bruce kind of found, of being just accepting both components of it. But I like this because it's set up similarly, I think, as like the way we saw Clint and what's her name? The
Kate Bishop.
you know Kate Bishop, yeah, like kind of them, and that we're going to be seeing them kind of throughout the episodes together. Something I saw that I think is going to be really fun is to see Wong, I think, make an appearance in this series. I want to say it was confirmed, not like a theory, but it would make sense for him to be in here since the last time we saw Abomination was with Wong, and I feel like he needs to explain to us why he's like apparently breaking him out of like prison to like compete in these like black market rings.
Let's just hope, like, and speculate that, who knows, that like Wong has like an end with like a security guy over there. It's like, yo, if I get you this, let me just take Abomination over here. I'm gonna fight this dude, you know. He's just like I'm curious as far as what that conversation is, but um, as far as Wong is concerned, if he is, I saw a picture yesterday. You know how people are so ready just to post what they find from previous things. So they posted a picture of Shang-Chi and Abomination going through the portal. And in the portal, we see the actual cell that we see in this trailer.
I did not catch that. And what I remember, we talked about this because we were like, "Oh, look, in the back it looks like that cell that Hulk was in the first like, Avengers team up movie, right?"
Right.
I did not even think of that.
I wouldn't have
Look
thought
at
of it
that.
either, but like, you know how the internet's just gonna internet. They're
Dude,
just gonna find whatever, and they're just like, look, it's the same red bars. Check it out. I was like, all right,
Done.
right. So, oh, and I have that image of kind of her standing outside of this cell. So this is what we're talking about, everybody. And inside, this is one of the things that me myself I'm super excited about, just because they brought back the actor Tim Roth here, and for those who saw the Incredible Hulk, the Edward Norton version, he was Abomination here, but I think just seeing what we're seeing today, I'm gonna say the first version of Abomination and Edward Norton, they're variants. Okay, so we're just gonna keep that like the same story, but in a different universe here. So here in this universe, we have our beloved Bruce Banner, and now we have Tim Roth, who isn't really necessarily a variant. Same person, same actor, and I'm super glad they brought him back for this because I don't see anybody else playing it.
I love that continuity, especially because I think it plays homage to a movie that for many, myself included, are forgotten to be part of like the MCU lineup.
Man, if Jesse was here, he would have a fit just because of where we ranked the Hulk. But
Oh, I know
yeah,
he did have a fit. He did
right,
have a fit.
right, right.
Yeah, no, I think it's a cool concept. Like I'm excited with what I saw so far. I think what some people have been critiquing, and I'm curious to get your kind of 2 cents on, is the visual effects of it. Seems like some people are feeling are not living up to par or look to be, to par to some of the things we've been seeing previously. What are your thoughts on that?
Is it the gills that are bothering people?
I think it's like Jennifer Walters She-Hulk specifically, that people are kind of
Oh, I
looking
thought you
to
were
be
talking
like,
about Abomination.
maybe it doesn't. Yeah, like I've heard a little bit of critique on like it doesn't feel like right. It looks a little too off. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Because I've seen a couple of comments on that in the internet.
I can't really say anything because this is my introduction into She-Hulk. Yes,
Hmm.
yes, I've heard of her, and I've never really seen what she looks like in the comics, but I see a jacked green woman lawyer, and I don't know, I think she looks good, so I don't
She
have an
looks as
issue. I don't have an issue with I don't know. I guess I would have to see what they're talking about, see what the internet's saying.
yeah, she looks as realistic as a green buffed mutation would look
Right.
like in a show. I'm excited to see more of it though. I am. It looks like a really cool concept, and I'm excited. I mean, I love. I forget the actor's name, but I love him as Bruce Banner. Why is there an R coming to mind? Do you know his name?
You
Mark
mean,
Ruff.
yeah,
No, it's
Ruffalo.
not Mark
Yeah, it
Ruffalo.
is. It
Oh, it
is.
is.
Yep.
Yay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I love him. I love that. I love him so much. 13 going on 30 was like my jam
Oh my
as a kid.
goodness.
And so like I have such a like a soft spot for him. And I mean, we love him as Bruce Banner, so I'm excited to see more of him here. Especially because I hope this gives us some information of like, post Endgame to like Shang-Chi, where we see him in like a sling, like kind of, no longer like the Dr. Hulk that we saw him in Endgame. Like I want us
Right.
to get more information to kind of fill in that gap. And I think we're gonna, get it here. Like it'd
Get
be
that
weird for
from
them not to
him doing
address
it to
it.
her, basically. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
something maybe, whoa, maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it's part, something with the transfusion, like something of that procedure or that element is why he's no longer like the Professor Hulk hybrid, but now just like Bruce Banner. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I'm really curious to hear what the MCU's adaptation of that's going to be.
You know what? Now that you mention it, let's have a conversation, a brief conversation, because we're later on in the show, when we get back to Multiverse of Madness, we're actually going to be talking about another topic that you sent me images for, as far as Secret Wars. But I want to bring up Secret Wars here just for a second, as far as in the news, in the Marvel news this week, they announced that Secret Wars is, or no,
Invasion, that's two
Invasion,
different
Secret
things.
Invasion
Yeah.
happened during the blip, right?
Hmm.
And with that being said, now I'm thinking, now that we're talking about this, do you think it's possible that maybe this story would be happening during the blip?
During the blip.
Because
Um, yeah.
The Hulk wasn't blipped away. He was there for the 5 years, and that's how he found out to become, what's he called? Not Smart Hulk. Was he? I don't know.
I called him Dr. Hulk.
Okay, Doctor Hulk.
I think there's like a specific there's a specific like nickname they gave him. Is it the Bro Hulk? Is it Bro
Oh,
Hulk?
I don't even know. But
I don't know, but you guys know. Yeah, yeah, we're talking about the same thing.
so, do you think it's a possibility that this could be somehow during? Because as of right now, we've gotten everything before and everything after the blip, and nothing else in between. So, do you think Feige's kind of
Hmm.
pushing kind of the in between here with Secret Invasion and maybe possibly the Hulk?
See, that's an interesting question. And it could fit. I could see this being almost like, I don't want to say prequel to, but a prequel to Shang-Chi in placing, Wong and Abomination.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of would be cool. I'm trying to think, something. Okay, so being that this involves like this new division and like a law firm surrounding superheroes and all of that, I feel like it would be a really rocky slope for us to kind of learn the name of the game and the world building when it comes to that dynamic in the blip when we know everything changes in terms of law afterwards. So for that reason, I feel like it's not going to take place within those 5 years. I feel like it's going to be after, Endgame and, kind of moving the story forward in this particular story. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just because of that. Because once we get into this season, we're going to learn really what her organization deals with, what kind of cases they're handling, what are like the ins and outs of how that works. And it would almost make no sense for us to learn all about something that will most likely be affected and drastically changed after everyone comes back, because that's what we saw happen in like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? Borders are so different. A lot of things with the laws are all over the place and changed. I feel like it just wouldn't make sense for it to take place within those 5 years because of that one little element.
Well, let's say hypothetically, if it came down to it, and say if it were, I can see if, like, let's say a law firm is now looking to represent every superhero that signed the Sokovia Accords, and that happened before uh, Infinity War. So every super that signed that, why not have a law firm represent that? And if that's the case, then they've been kind of working on that since the Accords.
Okay, okay, I could see that. And then maybe like if that's the case, and actually I'm sure that they're going to mention the Sokovia Accords. I feel like that's the closest thing we've had to like a written
Like
thing
a
in
registry,
law revolve. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything, I that it makes so much sense for them to for sure make comment of the Sokovia Accords. And whether it is in the 5 year time that everyone was gone or after,
Mm-hmm.
that I think is most likely going to happen for sure. And I guess they could play it off either way, because say this happens in those 5 years where a lot of people aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and we've talked about this before, I feel like it'd be cool to kind of get more stories out of that gap, because I mean that just seems like such a crazy time to live in. I feel like there could be a lot of like pretty brutal stories to pull from there.
Mm-hmm.
And if say we see that like Jennifer Walters down the road in a different project, they can make references of like what's different post blip or something. So I think they could probably make it work either way.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking it's going to be after.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
um
was like, I was just kind of throwing that idea out there, just from this Secret Invasion news. So I was just like,
yeah.
what if?
And and also, I love that. Anyways, no, but also on top of it, I think this show just looks too giddy and like happy moods for it to be like in the broody, sad 5 years
Gotcha.
in the middle. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Yeah, I could see it happening in both ways. And even if this project is not in those 5 years, I would love to see something that is. Like, I feel like that would just be so cool to explore. Like, we see how everyone's left, at the start of Endgame, and everyone's just like torn up. I think it'd be kind of cool to see the activities within that time.
Right. I think the only story that we got was Clint's, and he became what Ronin, right?
Yeah.
And aside from that, I'm sure, of course, there are known characters, and by known I mean known that we've seen so far on camera. But I'm sure there are other unknown characters that Marvel Studios can introduce. That, of course, that we know from the comics and, like, let's say TV series, and then bring it in here, and possibly if they want to form a story during the 5 year blip, they still can. But for me, being that they gave us this news of Secret Invasion, I honestly, like, it was maybe 2 shows ago, I was just like, all right, I think Doctor Strange is gonna be the end of blip talk, and here
There
we
will
go with
be no
Feige.
end. Well,
This
this
is
is
like
the
you
thing,
thought,
like
yeah.
the blip is like so monumental, and when obviously, I did not think after Endgame, I just didn't think the blip was ever going to be mentioned again. I didn't realize just how much story can get pulled from it, but it is a crazy event. Like I'm not really worn out with the storytelling because I think all of it is giving a better like idea of this new world of like
Mhm.
Earth 616
Mhm.
and where it is in this phase. But I thought that was kind of cool for him to say that the secret invasion happens in those 5 years because I'm trying to think. It's not No Way Home. It's Far From Home, where we see Nick Fury and Maria Hill are actually Skrulls, right? And
Mhm.
that's before the snap, correct?
No. Well, half half. We know Nick Fury is. We don't know what we Maria Hill may be human. She
Yeah,
we
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. No, but what I'm saying is like the events of when we see Fury that he's actually a Skrull,
Mhm.
that's in Far From Home, correct?
Yes.
Yes, and Far From Home comes before the snap.
Yes. No.
Right. Okay. Yeah,
Or
the movie
yes.
came after the Infinity War, but like the events of that movie were before the snap. I'm pretty sure.
Far From Home, when he's in
Far From
when he
Home.
goes to France.
Yeah, that's
This
before the
but
events
no,
of
that's
Infinity War.
no, it's post because he's looking at, like, the spray painted wall of Iron
Oh my
Man.
God, that's right. Why am I so twisted? Why is it in my head so like everywhere? Anywho,
I was
anywho.
confused for a second. I was like, was it?
Just kidding. Just kidding. Well, okay. Well, getting back to it, with Nick Fury, that's where we see that he's actually a Skrull, and I think it's Maria Hill also is a Skrull in that scene, isn't she?
I'd have to watch it again. I honestly don't
I
remember.
I'm like, I mean, I was 100% sure about my like timing of it, so who knows? But I
Hmm.
think both of them are Skrulls. But Nick Fury was blipped away for the 5 years. The secret invasion happened in those 5 years, and I'm curious. I'm like, I want to see it outlined because like I want to know already. But I think that's like the next fun step we're gonna get to learn with like secret invasion. I'm just trying to map it out in my head because it's such fresh news that they just kind of recently gave us. You know?
Right, and everybody's kind of taking a like away with it because they're just like, of course, that image of old man Nick Fury. I was gonna bring it up later. I have to bring it up later. I can't bring it up on the screen, but when it came down to him having this gray beard, it was like, okay, Secret Invasions is coming, right? But now with the news of it being during the blip, it's like, okay, if this Fury that we saw with the gray beard is actually wherever he is and he's not blipped away, then it would have had to been a scroll that got blipped away. But what wouldn't make sense would be why the scroll would have the pager to Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's a little everywhere. I want to say just because of storytelling wise, I want to say that the Nick Fury we saw with the pager at the end, where we see him get blipped away.
Mm-hmm.
I would like for him to be like the actual Nick Fury. I feel like it's just kind of a nice little homage to how we see his relationship with Carol in Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say that was Nick Fury. But it's kind of an interesting time. I'm excited for them to give us because we know that there is a Nick Fury scroll, and we know that Nick Fury is on some like scroll spaceship or something, you know. So it's I'm excited to see how they map it out. But when it comes to that particular scene of like the pager, I really hope they don't like tell us that was actually Squirrel Fury, because I like the kind of little touch of him finally bringing out the pager to call out Carol Danvers, you
Well,
know?
timeline wise, as far as the order goes, let's say it's Pager. If we want to say that's real Nick Fury, then real Nick Fury, he got blipped away. He came back, and then he went up. He came back in Endgame, and then he came back or went to space in Spider-Man. So I mean, it all lines up to where all three of those scenes could be Nick Fury.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's now Marvel's duty to explain to us how he is not blipped away in the Secret Invasion show. you know?
Or maybe, like, we know Nick Fury got blipped away, but maybe in those 5 years, like, some the people need a hero. So maybe that is when that scroll was like, you know what? Somebody's got to do it. I'm gonna step in and like be Nick
Mm,
Fury for these 5 years.
gotcha.
But something, if that was the case, he should have been helping um Nat with like the Avengers. She was all by herself in the Avengers Tower. So I don't know,
Yeah.
but I, these are the questions we have, Marvel. These are the questions we're excited to get answered.
Yeah. All right. Did you have anything else for She-Hulk?
No, overall, I'm excited. I like the concept of this like division in a law firm, just kind of being the ones to represent superheroes. I like the dynamic between her and Bruce Banner, and I'm just excited to see more of it. I before we do get into Multiverse of Madness, did you see that one shot of it's a new still from Thor: Love and Thunder with Valkyrie and
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman? Did you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That looks so cool. I just love that shot so much, and I wanted to make mention of it. And she looks so buff. Like we got a really good view of her arms, which everyone's been talking
hmm
about.
I'm kind of hating on Natalie Portman right now.
What? I was trying to make this a quick, like just like nice little moment.
I'm
What are
sorry, I
you
had to kill
hating?
it. I don't know. Like
Whoa.
I'm really just I'm curious just to see how if this quote unquote is the passing of the mantle. I'm just not as comfortable as seeing her as Thor as opposed to Chris Hemsworth, who initially I wasn't Team Thor, but it wasn't until Ragnarok to where it's just like Chris Hemsworth is hilarious. They
Yeah.
wrote him out to be funny, and now Thor's enjoyable. To now it's just like, all right, we're gonna pass it to Natalie Portman. Like, I don't know. Come
Well,
on,
okay.
man.
Well, I mean, when Thor kind of like lets go of his mantle, because the storyline I'm familiar with, and not too much in detail, literally just from like looking at the back ends of books in
hmm
like $5 bookstores when I look at the comic section.
yeah.
But I know that like Thor becomes like unworthy, and that's where like the mantle gets passed down to Jane Foster. But it's not like he's no longer present. So I think there is a world that exists where maybe him passing the mantle doesn't mean like say he's dead and
Mm,
gone like Captain America and Iron Man.
yeah.
So I feel like there's still ways for us to see Chris Hemsworth continue to play the role of Thor, but maybe in like a smaller way, and maybe in an even funnier way, where he doesn't exactly need to even really live up to the standards of like having to run a kingdom
Right.
and
Right.
have the structure, but he's a little bit more like Guardians of the Galaxy, like willy nilly, just like going over about places. So I wouldn't hate on it just yet. Of course, we haven't seen it. We don't know how they're adapting the story.
Yeah.
And but I would say hold off. But
Okay.
another reason I brought up the still, and I'm excited to bring this up. I saw somebody, and I don't know who I saw kind of propose this, but at the very bottom right of the still, someone was proposing because there's this woman in like a Black Panther looking.
I saw that. That's what I
Do you
would
know what I'm
say.
talking about?
That's what I would say is the Panther Goddess. That's my
That's
call.
what I've been seeing.
Yep.
Oh, you better believe when I saw that, I was
Mhm.
like, dude, chill.
Yep.
There's a whole area of the fandom who are with you on this.
Yeah. Because it was a few weeks ago, and I think I brought it up in one of the Moon Knight
Moon Knight.
talks. But yeah, like they actually put it out there as far as the Panther goddess is casted. So I was like, okay, so now that we see this image, who knows? She may be chilling. You said on this is called Olympus, not Olympia, right? It's Olympus. She's probably
Olympus.
chilling over there as opposed to seeing what else is going on in Egypt. She just left that for all those other gods and goddesses that we got, you know.
And this is why Gore, or whatever his name is mad because all the gods are just like, you know what? Music, love, death can
They're
wait.
living their
I
best
gotta go on
life.
my
Yeah,
vacation.
exactly, you
This is
know.
the Tulum of the
Yeah, I'm
god
chilling
verse,
in the
you know?
clouds right now. You know what
Seriously.
I'm
But
saying?
I
Yeah.
think that's all. Like, I think that's all in terms of like little things we've been seeing here and there. I think I'm ready to go into multiverse of madness.
All
Where are
right.
you at? You
I'm with
ready?
it. Let's switch it on over. All right. So, where we left off, at the, I'm gonna call it the decimation of the Illuminati, and I'm hoping everything that, say for those who actually saw the post I posted on Instagram as far as my confusion, I hope that made sense. Did that make sense to you, Grace? Like,
I didn't get a chance to look at the post you made. So why
wow,
don't you give us like a
wow,
little bit of a dude? He's gonna like
wow.
cut the call right now and just take the whole show.
Well, no,
But
like, say I was, there was um a little confusion that, say I'm thinking that, because when we spoke about seeing Thanos dead in Doctor Strange, uh, I assume that it was him and his whole entire army, right? But just I recall the events of Infinity War, and Thanos came to Titan by himself. He didn't come with his army. So with that being said, I was just like, okay, so these six individuals that are in the Illuminati took out the whole army, which in actuality they only fought Thanos just like Tony, Peter, and the rest of the Guardians did on Titan. So it was just like a team of like five or six versus Thanos. And for me, I thought it was like Illuminati versus him and his army. And that's why I kind of went into that hypothetical of seeing like dead mutants on the ground, you know? That would have gave me that kind of fan service, but I thought about it and I was like, "Oh wait, no, Thanos arrived to Titan by himself." That was pretty much it.
that is so
That
true.
was all I was saying.
That is so true. This is so right. Okay. I mean, I think we can still keep our gripe that we should have seen more cameos, but you're
Mhm.
so right. At least, we can remove that from the tally that we had made from against Marvel in our
Yeah.
last
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
multiverse of madness breakdown. So just gonna erase that from the board.
Yeah, but it was fun to chat it out. But either way, we're here back to the decimation of the Illuminati, and when it came down to this chase, okay, because we talked last week about the goodies of this movie, and Sam Raimi, this was a goodie as far as you see creepy limping Wanda kind of like coming through this tunnel. Nothing is stopping her. She's breaking through all barriers, you know. And I was like, okay, what are y'all gonna do, you know? So it was like, this is one of those. This 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 scene, it almost gave me the same feeling of seeing Steven in Moon Knight run down the little hallway at the storage with all those blinking lights. It gave me that kind of like fear feeling, that horror feeling, you know?
Absolutely. And I think, we've seen these elements in different films so far, and I feel like it was really loading the punch for this because it was done so well. And I think, the mannerisms that, is it Elizabeth? Yeah, Elizabeth Olsen kind of brought to the table for Wanda in this film
Mm-hmm.
added a lot to that kind of suspense element. And honestly, the best word I can describe, like the annihilation of the Illuminati and all of this like segment here in Earth. What is it? What's this Earth? The not
838.
616, 838.
Mm-hmm.
It's just disturbing. Like it's so like like it's not even like yes, it's horror and it's scary, but more than anything, it's just disturbing, and I love it. It's very Sam Raimi. And I did see something where Elizabeth Olsen was talking about like the choreography in order to get this um just this scene to land in the way that they wanted it to. And I loved this idea that they were kind of talking, and I feel like we kind of brushed on it as well, like it definitely delivered in this way that like the body on this earth, it's not like Wanda is there. It's very much like puppeteering,
Right.
right? So it's not like the moves are executed with like full precision, and it also applies to the scene of her just demolishing the Illuminati in that it wasn't even her full force. It's like her fighting with one hand essentially,
Mm-hmm.
with it, which I feel like makes this so much more like horrifying, and also with gives respect a lot to just the power that the Scarlet Witch wields. So, what film did super well, it did super well, and this is definitely that.
Well, uh, I'm gonna jump to the end here, but we can give Strange that same respect because she had a beat up living variant to where he had a dead variant that he ended up controlling. So this movie with the both of them, it just they both showed us and pretty much just unlocked that idea of the puppet and puppet master, and like
Yeah.
and like how you just broke it down. I didn't even think about it like that, and I was like, oh shit, that's true. She's in on 616 really, and she's just controlling this person. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and honest, yeah, same thing. I think that applies so much to Doctor Strange and his ingenuity, and not just obviously doing the dream
Dream
walking.
walking. Yep.
That was, guys, if you guys didn't watch last episode, that was like the bane of my existence. I could not for the life of me remember that term anytime I needed to use it.
Right.
But not just him going to the direction of having to dream walk in order to, beat the villain, in this case Wanda, but to like utilize a corpse. Like I love that kind of full circle tie-in from the start of the movie. But yeah, I mean, it kind of hopping back into the scene we left off, and this is definitely where we left off last week as well, which is
Mm-hmm.
just that scene of her kind of like limping through the hallway, going after Strange, and America, and the scene where you no longer hear her like beating at the door, and they're just stalling.
Right.
First of all, like, can I just say, you're running away from Wanda. The door is right there for you guys to just keep going. Why do they do this in scary
I'm with
films?
that.
Like,
Like, you don't even have to finish your sentence. I was just like, what are they doing? Just like,
this
keep
was like,
going.
yeah, I'm like, guys, like, if I don't see you, I'm booking it until there's a hand on my collar pulling me back. Like, you better believe I'm using every second to get away from this, like, from the Scarlet Witch, dude. And of course, this was like a jump scare, but I think well executed, where it's just like, it's just so good. It's so good. But another critique is like, well, they get to the door where they're trying to get through to get to the book of
Ashanti.
Vishanti, the book of Vishanti. And I do just love this usage of the watch throughout this episode as really
This
kind
episode.
of like movie. I'm so sorry. You guys know. I mean, we're in like the prime of Disney Plus TV shows. All of these
Mm-hmm.
are just episodes to me now. um but like of them utilizing this watch throughout the story of Doctor Strange, I feel like it's so like, it meant something in the first film, and I think it continues to mean something here, and I
Mm-hmm.
do love that this is the thing that obviously opens the door. But something I also really like is I like that it was Christine that was like, oh, this, like
Mm-hmm.
I love that Christine, despite like that the fact that her and Strange just will not ever be together on any universe, like she does know and recognize like just the like how much he cares and loves for her, right? Like ultimately this is the thing that unlocks the door to the book of all goodness, like that's I did love that.
Well, who's to say like let's say before 838's encounter with Thanos. Let's say that Strange before he got his hand on the Darkhold uh was pretty much the same Strange that we got in our universe. And he had, let's say, the same type of relationship with Christine, to where they loved, but loved to the point to where they never came together,
Mm-hmm.
but she always gave him the watch because there's no way like that scene would have worked, because obviously she gave this Christine, 838 Christine, gave 838 Strange the watch, and he used that to lock that door. So that story of Strange and Christine and that watch, I feel like, let's say that's an absolute point, and that always happens throughout every universe that we've seen.
And I like it. I do love that being like such a big story for Doctor Strange. And I did actually go after our show last week and rewatched Multiverse of Madness because I had to take my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, knowing what I know now and knowing what not to expect, I was actually able to enjoy the film a lot more. And I did like it a lot more than I did the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that negates, the issues we had with it that we discussed last episode. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that element, just seeing it in the view of a Doctor Strange film, which it is,
Mm-hmm.
I do like the way they crafted it, and the watch is just a huge symbol of like his story, not just for Christine, but also with Karma Taj and his journey into becoming the Sorcerer Supreme.
Right.
My gripe, and I feel like this is just like the stupid things that happens in a horror film, so it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. Is once they go through this door and they end up in this junction that connects, all these different pathways to different areas of the multiverse, they don't close the door. Like they don't take the watch and close the door. Like, dude, you deserve what happens. I'm sorry. Like,
Let's say, yeah, if anything, if even if they already made that jump, he could have just like done some magic to pull the door closed, lock it, being that he could have taken the watch and just be like, all right, so nobody's gonna get in here. But now that we're here in this point, at this in this area where you said this junction, um this is to me where I feel like, here I'm gonna bring up the image of the comic book version of the Book of Ashanti. Okay, and let's say the Book of Ashanti was supposed to, let's say, be the counter to the quote unquote Darkhold. Is that how they kind of mentioned it?
yeah, they basically said that the Book of Ashanti is the complete opposite of what the book of what the Darkhold is, which is why they seek this book to help them, fight off Wanda.
So they get there and they don't use any of it. It didn't get destroyed, right? I think maybe like a page got burned, but aside from that, the book was still there and it was left there. So that kind of left me just like, why didn't y'all know this is Darkhold magic? I'm sure you could find something in the pages just to counter this Wanda.
You know, I feel like maybe it was just me like juxtaposing the situation, but I thought the book actually got fully destroyed. But I think you're right. I think you're right because you do see obviously like pages get singed and burned and all of this stuff, and then by that time it's like Wanda has sent Strange and Christine to a different universe, and then allowing her to kind of hop back over to the other end of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think you're right. Like it just stays there.
It stays there, and then at this moment I was just like, okay, now that Wanda has uh
America.
America, right, she no longer needs to dreamwalk. So I'm thinking the 838 Wanda, and on top of going back to her kids, was maybe gonna grab that book. And I was hoping the movie would have, like, because it was getting to the point of despair to where we didn't even know if Doctor Strange was actually gonna pull anything out to win. So I thought we were gonna get a little bit more help from 838 Wanda with that book still being there.
I always thought that at some point, whether it's the 616 Wanda or a Wanda from a different universe, was going to team up against whichever evil Wanda we're dealing with. Like I felt like it would be some form of that dynamic, and obviously it wasn't. She was just like, okay, I'm free. I go straight to my kids. I don't want to hear about none of this, none of my business. I'm just staying home. You know.
I'm over here in Westview. Don't bother me. I'm not an Avenger, y'all. I'm not an Illuminati. Just I'm going back to my kids.
She clearly has the powers.
Right.
Like she clearly has the powers.
Right.
Like maybe she's not like the Scarlet Witch in the sense of what how the MCU has put the Scarlet Witch to be, but like she's got powers. She could have done something. You know what I mean?
She could have. She could have helped.
Yeah, but like once they get thrown to a different universe and the Book of Ashanti stays where it's at, like there isn't very much of a way for them to get back to it. So, like maybe this Wanda could have tried to do something. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that the same way the Darkhold gives people the knowledge of doing like dream walking to, kind of meddle in other universes, like maybe there's something of the sort there to kind of help,
Mm-hmm.
the situation. But yeah, I mean, I guess if Wanda wasn't going to do it, I don't blame Doctor Strange for not thinking to kind of try to seek it out again, because he kind of lost his chance to get at it.
Right, right. So, like, we had all of this talk about the Book of Ashanti, and we didn't even get anything from it. So, I don't know. I was a little bummed about it. I
Yeah.
was hoping to get a little bit of, I don't know, good magic, some good magic to battle the
We got
dark
none of
magic, you
that.
know. So,
None of it. None of it. But in our discussion of the Book of Ashanti, before we kind of move forward, like this is like the third big book, or maybe fourth, I forget like which book Doctor Strange opens in the initial like movie, but this is one of the books that we hear them try to seek out for answers.
hmm.
One of the ones we learned about in the What If series, I don't know if you remember this one, but it's the Book of Cagliostro. Do you remember this one?
Well, actually, it was, I don't know, Monday. I rewatched that episode, so
Oh, did you
yeah,
really?
yeah,
Okay, so it's fresh.
yeah.
She's fresh. Yeah. And it reminded me of that because like the Book of Cagliostro was like something that, is considered to be, like a very strong wielding like book of different arts and
Mm-hmm.
magic and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the Book of the Vishanti, so it's meant to basically just have all these different secrets of like life restoration, healing, protection, all of that. And it's a compilation of positive spells that were written down by the powerful trio that went by the name the Vishanti.
Mm.
Um, One of the notable members, me being Agamotto, the guy behind the Eye of Agamotto, all of that, the first
Mm.
Sorcerer Supreme, all of it. So I thought that was really cool, and I felt like it would have been cool if they mentioned it. But maybe it's something that if we do see this book come up again, they kind of explore more of. But other people that have notably used this book for whatever purpose they have, the Ancient One, Doctor Strange, of course, Loki, and the first person to ever be like the master of this book was called Varney, and he's actually one guy, he's the first vampire to have ever been created.
I
And
think you
so
mentioned this
other
one before. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And so I just brought this up being that we've had, mentions of this book. We know vampires are around the corner. This is the first guy to wield the book. And so it'd be cool. I wonder if maybe this is one of the characters who will introduce vampires into the MCU. So I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was pretty cool. And let me see, I think I had something. Hmm, no, I think that's actually it. Yeah,
I just
we continue.
I just want the vampires to come, and how Owen Wilson just kind of like casually like told us that they're in the universe, in the multiverse, you know, and then they never mention it again. Loki came out when it was like
Dude.
top of last year, you know, and then
Season 2 is going to start filming. I think it's in like the early production now.
right, you know, so I'm
Yeah.
just like, can we get vampires already? And it's just interesting to hear you say that uh there was a story of a vampire wielding this book, but would you say this person who was a vampire, do you know him to be previously like a sorcerer supreme, or he was just randomly someone who knows how to wield magic and mastered the Book of Ashanti?
I mean, obviously he's a master of like the mystic arts. Whether he was a sorcerer supreme, I mean, who knows? Like
Mm-hmm.
like we talked about last time, it's like you don't necessarily need to be the sorcerer supreme to be this, you know, huge figure in the mystic arts.
Right.
So we know he's a master of the mystic arts as far as at least I know from when I've looked into, and that he becomes the first vampire. So I mean, I wonder if he, even if he's not the first vampire or even a vampire we meet, I wonder if it's something that will be mentioned when that does come around.
Random question. This is off topic. It just popped in my head and I don't want to forget it, okay? Did you see the image that came out that someone pointed out on the poster of this movie about Mordo 616?
You sent it to me, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
saw that. I did see it.
So, can we talk about that briefly?
Yes. Yes, let's
Okay.
discuss.
So I didn't, of course, I wouldn't have zoomed in to see this, but let's say if you all are on the internet, of course, I'm sure you are right now watching this, but like if you Google Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness poster, there's a poster to where you see every character on there, and someone actually zoomed in to the point to where you see under, I think they said under Wanda's arm, there's a super small image of the Mordo that we know, and he's at some house. And this, if what they said is true, they said, if anything, I think Wanda may have murdered this Mordo. We don't know, of course, because he wasn't brought up here. But it is curious as to why he wasn't at Carmitage, or he's, I know he's beefing with Strange currently in this universe, but if anything, I'm sure he knows of the Darkhold and the power that it possesses, and he could have been some part to kind of help out as far as taking on Wanda as well. Not really like fighting against Strange, but just kind of keeping this universe at stake, just kind of fighting Wanda. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I feel like we talked about this before too. Like, I think both of us feel kind of weird that he wasn't brought into the film at all,
Mm-hmm.
especially because by the end of Doctor Strange, the first film, he was set up to become potentially like a future villain of Doctor
Correct.
Strange. And being that, the reason he split ways with him was because of his usage of the time, what we know to be now the time stone, and the Eye of Agamotto, and manipulating the natural laws of the world, which he's very against because they're supposed to be against, and that's something they're
Right,
supposed
like
to be protecting.
he got hit hard with uh the the previous Sorcerer Supreme,
Hmm.
finding out that she's wielding Dormammu magic, and then Strange over here working with time. So he was just like, all right, if this is what they're doing over here in Carmitage, I'm gonna holla at y'all, yo. The bills are gonna come due. You know what I'm saying? And with, sorry for that interpretation, but when it came down to it, it just made it seem like he was. I was hoping to see this universe here in this multiverse of madness, just to kind of help. If Strange is the problem, he would be there to kind of bring shit back. Maybe even be Team Wong to help bring shit back. I know we saw Wong throughout the movie, but who knows? I thought that was going to be a part of the story.
Yeah, like for me, and especially because, like I said, like he went against Strange because of his, manipulation of like the laws of like the world or whatever. Wanda did that to such a grave extent in Westview, and we thought this was going to be very much a film with the theme of like the bill comes due.
Right.
It made sense for him to be in it. So for us to only see this other variant of Mordo did seem weird to me. And now I'm questioning if he's ever going to come back. Honestly, and I think even if like I feel like I don't know, maybe we would have had critiques about them killing him off like early on in the film or something. But
Right.
even like say if he tried going, um, I'm using the term he used in a different episode, solo dolo, and like beating up Wanda because she's manipulating all these things, and then getting killed off early on before, say, maybe like when Doctor Strange discovered that Wanda was, behind all of these monsters going after America, maybe you see like Mordo's like head just roll in the corner to
Mm-hmm.
suggest that, hey, he got killed by Wanda, and he probably was trying to, you know, bring justice to her manipulation of like the different laws of physics or whatever.
Right. So say right now, as far as this Mordo, uh, we literally got nothing in this movie, and as of right now, the last time we saw him was pre-blip. So we
Hmm.
have no idea what happened to him during or after, but if they're not going to bring him back, that's kind of a waste, just because I liked him as a character. He's a good actor. I cannot pronounce his name. He has one of those, and I'm sorry, but when it comes down to it, um, he though he went, let's say, quote unquote, I won't even call it evil. He made his character lovable, just like Wong to me.
he became an extremist, you know, but like we got him into interacting with the team. Like we liked him as like a teammate. Like he helped Doctor Strange defeat not Dormammu. Well, yes,
Yeah.
Dormammu, but who was the disciple of him?
Caecilius.
Yes, Caecilius. So he was a character we were excited to see again, you know, the 616 version. So it was kind of sad that we didn't get him.
Right.
In Talks of Mordor, though, I think something we overlooked last episode was we didn't talk about this really, really cool, like, hand-to-hand combat fight scene with him and Doctor Strange back at the Baxter Foundation. Do you
Okay.
know which scene I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That scene was freaking cool. Like I had heard that they were gonna have some like hand to hand combat with like two mystic art wielders. I was like, how the hell are they gonna sell that? But
Mm-hmm.
you know, both of them end up getting cuffed, you know, with those like power damping cuffs, and like, you know, it wasn't like these masters of the mystic arts like result to like splat fighting, you know, once the magic's over. Like they
Mm-hmm.
still go like hard, and it was, I think it was really cool and like well orchestrated fight scene that I thought like kind of gave me back to, well, set me back to like one of the things we really loved about Shang-Chi.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a really cool scene.
Well, then, how do you feel about like, say, cause say with this fight scene and we're talking about this Doctor Strange. When he fought Mordo before, he wasn't trained, you know, so we got like a pre Sorcerer Strange fighting Mordo versus
Oh, that when they were
yeah,
training.
when they were
Yeah.
training, you know, and Mordo was kind of whooping up on him, you know, but now we're getting the new and improved Doctor Strange, you know, it's like an even match. So it was kind of good to see kind of like a before and after fight scene as far as those two.
Oh, 100%. And I know what scene you're talking about now. It's like when he's like talking about all these totems, and he's like, these are the bumbling boots of Boba Fett, or something like
Right,
that. You know,
right.
like they just roll off the tongue. So I think that like contrast is actually pretty cool. You like that?
It tickled. It sure did.
Yes. Boom.
Okay, so where are we? I'm sorry. We are leaving the Book of Ashanti, just like Doctor Strange and Wanda. We're moving on. We're moving on to uh the universe to where Strange and Christine land. This is the universe where you said this is one that previously had an incursion, right?
Hmm.
And here we get what's that building called? Because it's the only standing building that we know of, and it's the building where Strange usually stays. It's like something
It's
Bleecker Street or something like that.
Bleecker Street. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not a sanctum, right? It.
I think it's the Sanctum of New York, isn't it?
Oh, okay, then it is the
Yeah.
sanctum. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's one of the few remaining buildings that isn't turned upside down, floating in midair, you know. And of course, the Strange of this universe is here now. Insert problem number wherever I left off from last episode. Let's talk about this Strange, okay? Because initially, of course, we can continue to compare this Strange to the Strange we got in What If, but we didn't get that. This is just another variant, and this one here is the wielder of this universe's Darkhold, right? And being that he possesses a Darkhold, and beside, like, let's say, incursion aside, I would assume that anything, with when it comes down to the person who is corrupted, um, I would have thought like this world to be a little bit more darker. You know, this world is dark, of course, but we didn't get any type of like dark life. You know, if we're gonna talk like Darkhold type, why not have some demons or something in the mist? You know, I don't know.
I mean, I think because the darkness we see in this universe is because of the incursion, not necessarily because of the Darkhold. Obviously, this incursion happened as a result of using the Darkhold and
Mm-hmm.
you know, hopping into different universes. I think it makes sense for there to not to be like say this halo of demons going around like this building. Like it's Dementors
Just give me
that
vampires. That's all I want. That is all I want. All right, continue. I'm sorry.
soon, soon. Marvel has promised it's happening. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Man, the stakes are high. I feel like whenever they give vampires, I hope you're not disappointed.
Right. I don't want to be
um,
disappointed. I won't. All right. I'll chill.
but no, but I thought I did something I did like because obviously with the trailers we got more spoilers than I think Kevin Feige intended us to have, but we knew we were going to have a lot of familiar faces that resembled characters we got to meet in What If. Obviously, these are not the same characters we met,
Mhm.
the specific ones at least. But I did love how we kind of got to see even different variations of like a corrupted Doctor Strange, and apparently it seems like corruption for Doctor Strange's everywhere seemed to be a common theme.
Mhm.
But I liked the conversation he had with our Doctor Strange. When it leads into that, like, oh, have you ever had that dream where you're falling from a building?
Yeah.
That was
I
probably
did
me. Like that was a good
that.
line.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Um, I don't have the image here, but I would love to talk about this third eye. Okay. Now, you said this is the eye of Agamotto, and I just learned now from you that you said he was one of the groups. He was part of the Vishanti, which is awesome. But one thing I actually noticed in rewatching that episode of What If, after he absorbed all those creatures, there was a moment to where he did get a third eye in his human form as well.
I don't remember this. See,
Yeah.
what's weird is like, and I obviously have to look at the comics because even like throughout the comics and years, they sometimes do change like the meaning of certain things.
Mhm.
But at least from what I read, like the third eye he gets is something he does have in the comics as
Right.
well, and it's meant to be like another image of the Eye of Agamotto that he holds like in the totem right around his neck.
Mhm.
And I don't know like too much about it, but it's meant to I think it's just an extension of that power. Here it definitely has much more sinister implications, at least with the way we've seen it so far, like not just here but like you said in What If as well.
Mhm.
So it's curious, especially because of course we do see our Doctor Strange have that eye at the end of this movie. I was going to say episode again.
But let's talk about. Okay, so it came from it has come from like being corrupted by the Darkhold, right? Why didn't Wanda have a third eye?
That's so I feel like this is still just a Doctor Strange thing, but then again, it doesn't make sense consistency wise if it's meant to be a symbol of like corruption. Maybe it's coming out because whether it's good magic or bad magic, it's obviously he's receiving a level up in his abilities and powers, and
Mhm.
maybe that's just provoking the third eye. And maybe we'll learn because obviously in the horrible end credit scene, we learned he does become like peace one with the eye,
Mhm.
and he finds peace with it. So maybe we will learn that it's not necessarily as benevolent as it's seeming to be right now, but maybe it just comes out with that next level of power, whether it's
Mhm.
from something dark like the dark hold
Yeah.
or something deeper as like like some inner like thing with like Agamotto himself.
Yeah. Okay. So, um, Eye shows up, battle ensues. How do you feel about the music battle that they had?
It gave me such like Fantasia vibes. I actually liked it. It was kind of interesting. I think it reminded me a lot of like the intricate fight scene between Doctor Strange and Thanos on Titan in
Mhm.
Infinity War.
Mhm.
Just like utilizing their like some creativity and ingenuity, and it's just kind of breaking the typical kind of fight scenes that we expect. And when
Mhm.
you're looking at two masters of the mystic arts, like it's kind of cool for them to, it's like the way one would just grab a book off the shelf to like smack someone. It's like I'm gonna grab these notes from this page to just like as daggers. So it was really cool to watch. It was really different.
So, do you think uh the notes that we as an audience were hearing, do you think that was just like, I forgot what that type of audio is called in film, but do you think they heard that note like while they're fighting with these music notes, they're actually hearing the music notes like kind of go off how we were hearing it? What do you think?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure because the what you're referring to is diegetic and non-diegetic sound in film.
Right,
So basically, the differentiation between like what we see in or what we hear in film, whether they can hear it, like obviously background music to a scene,
right.
unless there's like a radio or like they're it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily like those characters are listening to it. I feel like it makes sense for them to hear it.
Okay.
Otherwise, I feel like it would take away from the scene. It would be kind of stupid,
Right, right. And it's
like.
just like in watching it, I was just like, I know I'm hearing it, but I wonder if this is just them wielding some magic, throwing some light at each other, and they actually, or do they actually hear the notes that they're throwing? You know, so
It's kind of like when you hear blades like slide against each other, or like the lightsaber was like,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that kind of sensation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool. Like I like that they're using these like unconventional methods for like battle. Like I thought that was a really cool fight scene. I
Yeah,
think overall it's kind of perceived that way. Like I thought it was really cool.
yeah, yeah. Me too. I thought so too. And it came down to the point to where our uh, our strange one, the other strange lands on the fence, but as he lies there, eye opens up. So I'm now I'm just like this is where my confusion lies. Like, is the eye still alive? Does the eye live forever? I don't know. I'm just confused. You
Um,
know.
from boards I've been saying, and I don't know if this is, confirmed or just speculation, but it's meant to kind of suggest that like the darkness still remains despite Doctor Strange's death. But then, of course, that would add to the suggestion that this eye is more benevolent than something in the middle, or just suggestive of like a higher level of power.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like maybe that who knows, like now that the dark hold is gone in all universes, I wonder if the eye disappeared in this particular, like now that he's dead, and like the darkness is dead as well, like maybe it's gone, I don't know. Or maybe it's just the power living on, how like they say like when you die your brain stays awake for like 7 minutes, maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's like something like that, or it's just like lingering.
Fun fact. Say in watching just this particular part, this is still Sam Raimi, right? And the look of it, it reminds me of things that I've seen in Evil Dead or Army of Darkness, to where I'm expecting Bruce Campbell to come with his chainsaw hand and then attack this eye that we seen, and like just being able to see that Bruce Campbell, he was the pizza ball man, it was just fun to see that, and then just seeing this style is like, oh, that's definitely Sam Raimi, and it's reminiscent of these movies that he's done with that actor.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm telling you, like the Sam Raimi elements in this film, I think are the things that really like made it stand out and kind of kept it at a higher ranking than I think it would have fallen into.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that scene kind of lands in that too. And I think before we kind of progressed into the events with like him then trying to get back into the fight or into the
Mm-hmm.
ring with Wanda,
Mm-hmm.
something I wanted to mention, because obviously Wanda is still on Mount Wundagore. Last time where we were talking about this, we discussed how Mount Wundagore has a lot of different implications in the comics. One of them, it's the birthplace of Pietro and Wanda. It's also where the ancient being demon Chthon, one of
Mm-hmm.
the first, actually the first wielder of dark magic, inscribed his dark magic into what we know now to be the Darkhold. Obviously, in the MCU, it is kind of not retcon, but it's explained to be that it is Chthon who wrote the Darkhold into Mount Wundagore. That is something I caught on my second run of the film. It's Wong who mentions it's like it's the dark demon Chthon that inscribed these
Oh, when he's
spells.
talking to her about it.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. So it is mentioned that Chthon was the one who inscribed essentially the teachings of the Darkhold into Mount Wundagore. And I thought that was really cool because something I mentioned last time was that I really hoped that they mentioned something about Chthon, and they did. In the comics, he's actually one of the background catalysts for Wanda going kind of berserks and allowing her magic to take over,
Mm.
because in the comics it's anyone who wields Darkhold, like the reason he leaves the Darkhold behind when he hops into a different dimension to kind of escape being killed,
Mm-hmm.
is so that someone can use it and he can manipulate that person to allow him to come back. So I wonder if, maybe next time we see Wanda enter the MCU, like I wonder if he's going to be a more present figure the way we assumed Mephisto would be when we were watching WandaVision. So that tidbit made me really excited.
Do you think you're thinking what, like he'd be able to like dream walk with like one of them or something?
I don't know. It's so interesting. Like it's the mention of Chthon got me excited because it means that he is part of the lore in the MCU and he is part of the lore behind the Darkhold. Oh, and something else is in my deep dive of the book of the Vishanti and learning that Agamotto was one of the people to, write the book. Agamotto, although he was born mortal, he's not human.
Mm,
So he's said to be born of the tier of Oshter, who's a benevolent elder goddess and sister of Chthon. So
mm,
it's so interesting that the people who have written or were involved in the writing of these huge, like almost opposite polar books, are actually related. Isn't that interesting? Like Agamotto's basically Chthon's nephew.
man, I'm not gonna lie. I
Man,
just got lost. But that sounds
you can.
that family tree definitely sounds interesting, and I would say why not? Just because if anything, they're the quote unquote originators of this magic, and say if you have uh say the uncle to write the Darkhold, you have the nephew to write the Book of Ashanti, So I don't know. It
it's
makes sense.
it's cool. It
Yeah.
was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting because both of these figures are present in the MCU. With this mention of Cthulhu
Mhm.
by Wong, and these two books are involved in the MCU. So I thought that was kind of cool. And so I just wanted to mention it as we kind of come back into the events of Mount Wendigore.
Yeah. So, wait, before we even get there, do you think I'm going back into some hypothetical. Do you think if it came down to it, uh whoever wrote, if it was Agamotto who was part of the Vishanti and wrote the Book of Ashanti, right? That's what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Then if it came down to it, um, how do you feel as if he did that encounter of the Dark Hold?
I mean, it would make sense too. The way that I've read it is, the Vishanti, the group, and one of the members of Vishanti is his mother, a sister of Kifan.
Mm-hmm.
They wrote their like good magic spells into this book. I don't know if the intention was for it to be an opposing like variable in the world to
Mm-hmm.
oppose like the dark hold. I'm not sure. I mean, we can look into it.
That's
I
what I
mean,
was
that
just
would
saying,
be
like
cool if that was
hypothetically,
it.
like what do you
Yeah.
think? Yeah.
I can look into it for sure because I feel like what we will probably make mention of these books again, especially with these huge stakes coming in with what it seems to be secret wars around the corner, or at least in the future of the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if these things will be like little like important sources that they kind of seek in future films. But
It should
it
be because just like Mordo, it would be a waste to just kind of bring it up here and then to never see it again.
mention it again.
Especially like the Book of Ashanti, we know Doctor Strange, I'm sure he's gonna have more films or whatnot, and I think it would make sense to maybe him go on a quest or something to find a way to get to that book, to use it to fight the next big bag, or I don't know. I don't know. It would just be dumb, I feel, if they just left it there.
Yeah, and especially with say like the Infinity Stones, the Infinity Gauntlet being such a huge piece of the storytelling for phase or the first saga. We can kind of say like the Book of Ashanti and the Book of the Darkhold are artifacts that rank higher on the scale of power, and so it would make
And
sense for
everybody
them to be.
voted. They voted 100% that it was the Dark Hold. I just wanted to
There
throw
you
that out there.
go.
Everybody was just like, the Dark Hold is way more powerful. But I just wanted to ask, just because initially the gauntlet that I posted, of course, had all stones, and we mentioned before that the image that we got of Thanos in this movie, I think it was maybe like one
Mm-hmm.
stone missing, or maybe I don't know. So it wasn't really full form, gauntlet. So I just wanted to pose that question to everybody as far as what they thought.
Yeah, and I think so, being that these items like rank higher than the Infinity Stones, which were much more involved in the story of the first saga,
Mm-hmm.
it would make sense for us to kind of revisit or hear about these items down the road. Like maybe not the Dark Hole, since by the end of this film it's, no longer existing, but maybe more mention of Cthulhu, who I'm sure is mad that his only tie to returning back to these realities is gone at this point.
Prediction.
Let's hear it. Let's go.
Somehow Kang gets his hand on the Book of Ashanti. I'm just gonna throw it out
Ooh.
there.
Ooh. Interesting.
Yeah, why not? Like, say if it came down to it, there's a reason why the Kang variant can make the Infinity Stones powerless. We have no idea how he got his power or whatnot. We're gonna get that soon, so why not? Why not throw the Vishanti in that equation and he maybe like figured out some way to get that and create the TVA.
Who knows? Like maybe that's what it is, and it's the creation of the TVA was meant to be, you know, a fix to the war and the brutality of killings of like different variants. So maybe the Book of Ashanti was used to help like create it. Like it would make sense for it to like that would definitely be a book that has spell strong enough to do something like the TVA, you know?
Yeah. Okay. I was throwing that out there. Back to the movie. Sorry, y'all. I'm just throwing a lot out to y'all today.
It is madness. It is multiverse of madness. We are allowed.
Where are we? We are. Oh, we're with 616 Strange, and he has the dark hold. He he dream walks his way into the other dead Strange that's currently on 838, and this is where I would say in the commercial of like say the Super Bowl trailer, I was like, oh shit, we have a zombie Strange flying around, and initially I couldn't tell. Like I thought it was just like an evil black cape, but we came come to find out that it's just like Dark Souls trying to possess his body. But just that whole look of him in that cape, I don't know. It was badass. Yeah, I messed with that really. Yeah, it was good.
That was chef's kisses.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously like these demons come out essentially to like, you know, the what is it called? The debt comes due, whatever that term is, right? Because you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Like Doctor Strange knows that there is like a punishment for him dream walking into a corpse.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently that's like a no when it comes to like the laws of, you know, whatever this is.
Right.
And I thought it was so funny that he's like, okay, I know these demons are going to come after me. I'm sure they're going to attack you too, Christine. You got this. You got this for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Deuces. I'm going to go do this. And like, the fact that he was so casual about being like, you got this. Like, protect my
Just
body from
yeah,
these
just
big bad demons.
listen.
You
These
can do
these
it.
things are coming, but you're smart. You're a doctor. I've known you. I've known your other you. You got it. Like
Like that was so funny to me. That
yeah.
was so funny to me. But it was so cool because obviously she was able to hold her own. She used, and I can't remember what it's called, but they do mention the name of it. She uses this little thing that shoots like flames,
Is
and
that the
it's
same?
oh,
Is that the same one from the first movie?
yes,
It is.
it is. And then now we know why Caecilius like kind of stepped back when Doctor Strange grabbed that like totem or artifact, and he's like, "You don't know how to use it, do you?"
Ah, gotcha. I didn't put two and two together, but wow, that's crazy. I like the fact that we actually got to see what it does. But say when it comes down to Christine, just in this moment, why or how does she know about relics here, you know? Because her and Strange split, or and her version of Strange split, you know? And she's traveling to another universe, and now is it safe to assume that every universe has the same relics?
um it seems so. Like, right, like every or I guess like most people, because we know this is not true for America Chavez, but like most people have different variants throughout like the span of the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
These artifacts, these like creations, these totems are all created by people, and so if they exist, like maybe variants of those, like,
Okay.
relics also exist. Like, Agamotto, like I'm sure there's an Agamotto in different universes. There's another like known artifact that he's like known for, which is, I think it's like the orb of Agamotto. Like I'm sure that exists like in different universes as well.
Okay. I say when just her wielding it, I don't know, it's just one of those. It's like, how does she know how to use it? You know, if
See,
you were a doctor before, like medical, you know, like human bodies and surgeries and all that, and then if you're in 838, okay, you may know some technology over at the Illuminati, but now you're a master of the mystic arts. You know
it
exactly.
begs to question. No, like it really does make sense, because it begs to question. It's like, okay, like how did she go from being a doctor to then becoming like a lead in the Baxter Foundation? Not just the lead, but she's naming different universes. Like that's big,
Right.
you know? Not that she couldn't, but like I'm curious to see that pathway. Like maybe it's after Doctor Strange died, like she wanted to be more involved
Mm-hmm.
in the happenings of the Illuminati. Maybe indirectly that meant she learned a lot about the mystic arts,
Mm-hmm.
But it's, yeah, this is definitely this is Christine 2.0,
Right. Right.
Yeah, she definitely trumps the Christine of our universe in that sense.
Definitely.
Yeah,
She
but she also knew to tell Strange, like, dude, you're the master of the mystic arts. Use them, you
right.
know?
Mm-hmm. But how would he know? Like, because it's not like he was just like, well, and actually in the movie it was just like, oh yeah, why not? I'll use it. But it was just so random as far as in those few seconds he was just like, oh, these souls are attacking me, but I'm just going to now find a way quickly to bend to my will and use them for me, you know? Like that I get he is a master of the mystic arts, but I feel like all of this dark magic came too quick for him to master, if that makes sense.
Well, keep in mind, like strangers always have had a curiosity. Even in the first movie, like he was already breaking laws and reading books that he wasn't necessarily supposed to be reading. And although I think Infinity Stone kind of showed like an almost an opposite version of that, where he was so rigid on the rules,
Mm-hmm.
like he has more often than not been the person to kind of dive into things he maybe shouldn't have for like the greater good or
Right.
like the final outcome. So who knows? Like maybe he does know more about the dark arts than he doesn't necessarily need to utilize these spells in order to know about
Right.
them. And being like the sorcerer supreme or former, and a master of the mystic arts, like how can you fight these dark beings and spells if you don't know about them? So I'm not too surprised that he knew how to do it. Um, visually, like I'm happy he did, because it looks so cool for him to like kind of flip the switch on these demons and just use them as like a freaking cape and a way to get to the other side of like Mount Wundagore. That was pretty dope.
Random. I'm laughing over here just because I'm just thinking, kind of going back to Harry Potter. Everybody knows Avada Kedavra. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just like the Death Eaters or whatnot. Everybody knows it. So sure, Strange knows how to quote unquote defend himself from the dark magic, I guess.
It was a cool scene. It was really cool. And something, it's like that's another thing. Like I love that we got to see different elements from things that we enjoyed in like cartoon version and What If, and we got to see them live action.
Mhm.
For both of us, like the zombie episode was high ranking. For me, it was my number one. I don't
Mhm.
remember where it ranked on yours, but for both of us, it was high up.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see, like a variation of that. And it was almost a comical seeing him, and like Wong was like, I don't want to know. I don't
Right.
want to know.
Right. Um. But let's talk about Wong just for a second, just because we talked about him earlier on in the film, and then here he's hanging on a ledge. And initially, before Zombie Strange shows up, I think one of those huge demons was about to like, I don't know, crush him or whatnot, and then he threw up his little I don't know, what is that called? It's like a spear. I don't know. It's one of those things I think like Scorpion had in Mortal Kombat, and he just.
It looks like it gives me kind of like the feels of what's his name from Guardians of the Galaxy, the one with like the arrow, the dorsal fin.
um
Why is his name slipping from
Yondu.
me?
Yondu.
Yondu. It
Mm-hmm.
gave me kind of those feels because he had it throughout the whole film. It was like his go-to. It was his go-to weapon, like the way I guess like Doctor Strange uses, the cloak
Mm-hmm.
throughout the
Mm-hmm.
his films. But yeah, like we were set to kind of have a feeling of like, oh crap, like he's dead because he got thrown off Mount Wondergore like Gamora or
Yeah.
something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fandom would have had a huge problem if like the 616 variant of Wong was like cast aside so quickly.
Definitely.
So I was when he came back, I was like, yes, Wong.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I think it was in the trailer to where we hear him, like we actually see him hanging in the trailer, and he yells "strange." And I was thinking in the trailer he was maybe against, like maybe like Doctor Strange had gone evil or whatnot. Like he was just
Mhm.
yelling it almost kind of in fear, but this was more so now in celebration that Strange has found a way to make it back into the fight, you know. So that was kind of another one of those misconceptions that I thought was actually going to happen. Trailer versus movies.
And something on that note of like trailer versus movies, like I feel like the plot line of the film was so different than what we kind of were given clues to because we had this whole kind of overshadowing references to say the events of Spider-Man, like like you opened a door you can't close.
Right.
And so I feel like we were meant to believe that there was some breaking of the multiverse that was kind of creating this event that they needed to kind of come together to try to mend and fix, and ultimately the door of like the multiverse would be open. And it was like it wasn't that whatsoever. It was really just focused around this kind of smaller storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot from like the trailers that I think just didn't like navigate whatsoever,
But that's what, yeah, like you mentioned, that's what gives us the easy assumptions, because if anything, we are still, oh, I don't know about you, I'm gonna say me, I am still curious just to know if it is Loki uh that caused the break, or if, like, let's say while watching Loki you see like a moment to where he remains, he's like he paused, he's like, oh, there it is, and then he's like, I don't know what happens after this. So it's like there's a moment to where the multiverse breaks, you know, and we didn't know, or I didn't know, if now they're tying this into, let's say, Spider-Man No Way Home, from what Strange did there, possibly broke the universe, and then we get the trailer to this movie. Now we're thinking, now we're dealing with the repercussions of him breaking the universe that we saw in Loki, and the Illuminati was the answering factor for that. That's all that we got from that
and none
trailer.
of it was
Right,
really
right.
even like part of the movie. So like that, see, I'm telling you, this is one of those reasons like we can't be held responsible for the high like expectations that we just weren't received. Like there's a couple of memes out there of like, oh, like I like this movie did not meet my expectations. And it's like the movie, the expectations. And it almost seems like we're demanding more than we should be. But it's like, no, no, no. Like that's exactly what they were really putting up on the platter. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And just to kind of answer your question, like Kevin Feige on the red carpet for Multiverse of Madness, he definitely stated no, like the events of Loki are the events that were the catalyst or the backbone to how No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness were even able to happen.
Mm.
So that's been really a question since Loki, since what we knew would be happening in a No Way Home, of like what was like, chicken or the egg like situation. So we know this now to be definitively like Loki and Sylvie are kind of the responsible beings behind how these things can even exist.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was just like, again, all these, I didn't get a clear answer here, Feige, and I wanted it. Multiverse of Madness was supposed to answer a few things for me, but the trailer led us on and gave us more than what we got in the movie.
It's no, it's honestly like ridiculous kind of reflecting back because it's like it's the overshadowing statement from Doctor Strange that was said in No Way Home, like, the multiverse is something that we just don't know very much of, whatever. And then we have Wong and like the final trailer saying like, like we don't know who or what's going to come through. And really, like none of that really mattered in what this film actually did.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting. But coming back into the events, right? We get Doctor Strange with his like cloak just flying into Mount Wundagore to battle with Wanda. We get this fight sequence, and this was a cool fight sequence. I really liked it. I think it was like somewhat comical because we see Strange with his like half like
Right.
open jaw,
Looking
and
like
we
Two
even get like a
Face.
line, yeah, yeah, looking like Two Face, 100%. And there's like this funny scene where he says like a line that's meant to be cool, like those one-liners, and Christine's kind of like cringing, like over, like you have to do more than kill. I don't know, something about like killing him. Do you know the line I'm talking about?
I'm lost. I don't remember off the top.
There's like a specific thing where Wanda calls him first of all a hypocrite, which is something I kind of want to come back to, but he says something like, "Oh, like you have to do more than kill me to kill me" or something, and Christine's kind of like cringing in the
Oh
background,
shit.
like it kind of goes back. It was
Right,
so,
right. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm. I remember. I remember that part now.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like kind of going back into what Wanda said, with the hypocrisy, which is a theme in this because she mentions it in the beginning with her conversation with Strange, and that like I break the rules and I'm the villain, you do it and you're the hero. Like that doesn't seem fair. What are your thoughts or like kind of comments when it comes to that statement and the hypocrisy in those two characters?
I can't call it hypocrisy just because we didn't get to use the Book of Ashanti, and we had to fight fire with fire. It's not like Strange wanted to use the Darkhold. It's something that he had to do. He had to use the Darkhold to defeat Wanda. So um, if it's not hypocrisy on his part. He, like I mentioned in the last stream, this is part of his story of becoming a better hero, and just like the previous sorcerer supreme before, they had to do what they had to do to defeat evil at the time, so if Wanda's salty, she can stay salty. It's not like she used the dark hole for good. She used the dark hole to 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 kill
To
and
cut and paste.
right, and put herself. And I don't even know how it was gonna work, if she was gonna stay dream walking in that other Wanda too, or she was initially just gonna, like Strange asked, what are you gonna do with that other Wanda, like she's I would assume just kill that Wanda off, stash the body, and then just become a mom. So at the end of the
Yeah.
day, the Darkhold for her was used more so for bad, and uh Strange only he used the only weapon that he could to save the universe, basically.
I do think like we can kind of still have the conversation where you can see like the levels of like hypocrisy in the situation, and that like I think the Illuminati was kind of like that angle is like, bro, like you're already talking about using like the dark hold, and we told you that's what our Strange did and caused like an incursion, like you're not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And it like Doctor Strange has that same kind of like mindset, obviously for good, like that's not like up for
Right,
question, right?
right.
Like Wanda did have like the corruption like in her time with the Darkhold led her into really kind of this like almost, I wouldn't say delusional, but just very like far like out of reality view.
Yeah.
But Doctor Strange is very definitive and very like is like, I see your criticism, Christine, but I am absolute and right, which is the same kind of mentality that Thanos had when it came to the Infinity Stones, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of being like, this is the method for the ultimate outcome. And so I would say like the commentary of hypocrisy isn't completely overruled. I think it's obviously overshadowed by like the fact like, yo, you're like the things you're doing doesn't make, it's obviously it's not for like the greater good, it's for your own kind of selfish reasons. But I still think there's like something to be said by that of that dynamic.
um I can say yes, I can agree, just because at the end of the day, like we talked about it being a theme for Doctor Strange in general, even going back to the first movie,
Yeah.
but uh for me, it's still it's just going to come down to you do what you got to do, and unfortunately, he didn't have the other weapon that could have battled uh, the Darkhold. So I think this Strange of 616 is lucky that uh, all the Darkholds were destroyed, because who's to say that he wasn't corrupted? You know, who's to say that if the Darkhold remained, he would have taken it? You know, we don't
Yeah.
know. You know, but luckily for him, it was, so he didn't have to go that route of the Strange that he just fought, and now he left that battle not only saving the day, but it's like he he kind of unlocked America's power, you know? Like she didn't have like her confidence to kind of fight Wanda for one, you know? So like I think you mentioned it before, like this is his Clint to Wanda moment, you know? But now he's uplifting America to bring her powers out and use it for good, you know? So hypocrisy, maybe, but I don't know. Again, for me, just like I guess for Thanos, it was for the greater good. But the question,
That's what I'm saying. Like, so
yeah,
like, just being that the fact that obviously you want to use this for selfish means, I don't think throws away the commentary of hypocrisy. I don't disagree that, like, in these kind of times, you do have to have some form of a balance of, like, you kind of have to do what you got to do. But I think the parallels like still kind of stand. And obviously, like, yes, like Doctor Strange, I think was like like, I don't know, that to me was just like mildly cheesy the way it's like all I had to do was tell you that you could do it and then you did it, like.
hmm
I did like and also like kind of on that note, it's like, oh well, everything you did led us to where we needed to go. It's like, did it though? Like, yes, it opened the portal to like the Illuminati, but it's like, nah. I guess that is true. It was more so their actions that didn't allow them to actually use
yeah.
the
He
Book of
was more so.
Ashanti, but
He
she
was
did use the portals. Yeah.
yeah. He was more so. I feel like referring to fate. Like it was just like no matter what, even if she wasn't in control of where they went, it was the journey to get them there. You know.
Yeah, and also it was like, he was close to being like, well, it was Wong who was like, Strange, you have to take America's powers to get this job done, like same idea. It's like to kill a child to get like what needs to be done to get done, which is the same kind of horrible act that happened in the first part of the movie. Like it's really interesting, and something I saw like as a on the it was like a meme of we never like we can't sacrifice one man, like we don't what is it like sacrifice lives or something like
Is
that, like
that
the whole
the
Vision and
Vision and
Captain
Steven
America.
Steve? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then at the bottom it's like Doctor Strange is just like, I don't care.
I'm
Like, I do it.
I gotta do what I gotta do.
Try me. I'll do
Right.
it again.
Oh
But
man.
America, like initially, I think she opened a portal, and her powers are dope. Like for her to finally use her powers, like that was a cool scene.
hmm
And you saw that even with like the Scarlet Witch having the powers of the Book of the Dead, like almost like America almost threw her into what I think was hell. I think that was like the first portal she opened.
Oh, I didn't see
And
that.
ultimately America was like, I think the most effective would be like to show her what she actually became by using her kids as a reflection of like the corruption she's actually fallen into.
Yeah.
And that scene was really satisfying to see. Just like the Wanda of that Earth,
hmm
like just caress the other Wanda space. Like that was just very like I really liked that scene.
Yeah.
And ultimately Wanda, kind of similar to Westview but with more damage in between, was the one to get rid of all the dark holds everywhere to remove the element of temptation, which will ultimately lead into corruption and like just darkness, right? So
Definitely.
she's the one who decided to do that, and then you destroy Wondergore Mountain, which has like the original like scripts of the Darkhold, and is set to be like her death, right? We see this little like spark of an explosion,
Right.
which we can kind of converse in a moment. But like what are your thoughts on that kind of that like leading into the end scene?
Um. I mean, I wasn't really mad at the idea of like her coming to the realization that she was not only hurting her kids but actually hurting herself, and then she realized that it was just like, okay, what I am doing is wrong. Like, my bad. like, and
Like, like
and
the reality of it is like, dude, like your goal from begin with just wasn't gonna land no matter what. Like Doctor Strange is like, okay, what's gonna happen to the Wanda of that universe? Like, what are you gonna do? Like,
hmm
and she never really responds. It's kind of like, well, I'm gonna ignore that and just keep chugging through.
right.
So she was definitely forced to kind of face the reality of like, you don't have your kids in this universe, and that's just the sad like fact of it all. That version of Westview, Wanda and the kids will be forever traumatized.
hmm
Good luck to them.
Oh
I hope
yeah.
therapy works. It's gonna be like long healing from that event, you know?
Right. That I don't know. Just when it comes down to just thinking about it now, I feel like one of our conversations before we were talking about, like when we were talking about predictions as far as uh Wanda having to travel the multiverse to heal, and in this scene, this is that basically. Because honestly, trailer wise, I didn't know if the Wanda, because they showed us both of them and kind of her caressing. I had no idea if this Wanda was good or evil, because it was the 838 Wanda that we see in the trailer with blood and stuff fighting the Illuminati. So at the end of the day, that I think that's what made it easy for me to assume that this Wanda was actually going to be good, but in actuality, it was reversed, and now the 838 Wanda is good, and all she wanted to do was just continue to be a mom,
Live the life.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I liked
Fold
it.
laundry.
I liked it, and just getting back to Wonder Gore. Uh, now I understand. Well, not really understand. It's I get why she destroyed everything. Um, but does that mean every one of those mountains are destroyed as well, or just the book? Like, what do you think? Like, it doesn't explain in the book, but like, I mean, in the movie. But what do you think?
You know something, that's actually a true, like a good question to ask, and I didn't think of it. Like, so we know the books are destroyed everywhere. That's
Mm-hmm.
definitive. But if say, because obviously in the comics, like the story's a little different. Like there is no engravings in Mount Wundagore. Like yes, there is like an essence of Cthulhu that remains, which is
Mm-hmm.
what leads to some of Wanda's corruption and some storylines. But I think in the universes where it matches with this one, that he inscribed the teachings of the Darkhold into Mount Wundagore. I mean, unless I don't know, like I feel like Mount Wondergore still remains. So maybe I guess there still leads like, yeah, people it's hard to get there, right? Like Wong said, no
Mm-hmm.
one's made it out alive. They're the first ones in this universe to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be quite the journey that many will not accomplish,
Yeah.
but I think there's still room for people to play and meddle with the Darkhold. So actually I think that door still remains open.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like it. And from there, I think that was pretty much the conclusion, right? Because it came down to the point to where America, I think, didn't she pick up Christine and put her somewhere to take her out of that dark universe? And
Dude, I feel so bad for Christine. Like she's going back to basically clean up the bodies of the Illuminati and just figure out how to move forward without Reed Richards, the leader of Baxter Foundation and
mm-hmm.
the supposed smartest man alive. Um, man, I don't know. But
Right.
yeah, she sends her back to her universe. Doctor Strange. Well, we leave with Comertage
Mm-hmm.
seemingly all in well, like people are teaching.
You see how
America is
fast they
learning.
probably put out an ad like on Instagram or Craigslist, like sorcerers wanted.
Discounted.
you know just because we were talking about how before it just seems like everyone there, while battling Wanda, they weren't a master of the mystic arts, and I'm just like, okay, did they all die off in Endgame and these are all new sorcerers, so who knows? Like, if it's the case, then Wanda didn't actually kill anybody. The only person to die in Kamertosh is Wong's love when she stabbed the book, and everybody else was just more so beat up and knocked out, and now they're back to basic training.
I mean, not a lot of them. Like I know one, like the I know like one of the masters we saw in Doctor Strange, like the first film, the one that doesn't have a hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was killed off, like in
Oh,
that scene where
gotcha,
she comes
gotcha,
out of the gong.
gotcha.
She does like crush the head of one of like the people who was kind of groveling on the floor when she lands into Carmotage. So
Mm,
people did die, but
okay.
maybe not as many as we thought
Right,
had.
right.
And so it seems like most of them have healed from their injuries. They're back to training. America Chavez is joining them on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so definitely that whole idea of like not passing the mantle in this case, but more so like the mentorship, like the more vets of, Avengers, etc., like teaching the newcomers, the ones who will eventually, link up together and create like their own little assembly of heroes, right?
Yeah. Um, I'm sorry, I got stuck on now a question. Say, can anybody become a master of the mystic arts?
See, it seems so. It seems so. I think because I think if anything, some people maybe have it naturally, Ned, right?
That's I was about
And
to bring
some
that up,
people,
like he's like I
yeah,
got it in my blood or something like that. So now I'm just like I see her now practicing. She was never a master of the mystic art because it's just like one of her powers is being able to travel through the multiverse. So with that being said, I'm just like, okay, can anybody just be a master?
it seems like it. And kind of thinking back to Doctor Strange, it's like, there was no predisposition to assume Doctor Strange had anything within him prior to being able to learn the mystic arts. Obviously, he had some advantages that also helped him through med school. Like he was just super smart, photographic memory, etc. But, the person who taught himself how to walk again or like be able to heal himself, like he was just searching for methods to do that. And he could have continued his training, but he was like, I'm cool. I got what I wanted. So it seems like anyone who has like the initiative and the patience and the time to want to wield those arts, it seems like they can. Some people I think just maybe have it more naturally where like, like anything, like I could choose to learn soccer. Doesn't mean I'm going to become like a pro athlete. So maybe
Right.
there are limitations. And I think that would explain why not everyone was able to hold up the battle against the Scarlet Witch.
I'm just thinking about how Ned could make a portal, and it took forever for Strange to learn how to make a portal on Mount Everest. So I was just wondering if Ned was actually special, or it's just anybody can wield it as long as he got
Well,
a little sling ring.
yeah, well, it does seem like he has like something inside him that makes it like it's more so maybe ingrained. It seems like he had someone who beforehand who knew the mystic arts to
Mm-hmm.
some degree. I hope they do dive into that more, which I think they will, because it seems like they are going to make him a villain down
Yeah,
the road.
yeah, yeah.
I do like in my head as you mentioned Ned though, I'm like imagining his doing like he
Right,
has like a
right.
little way of he does it. That's kind of funny. Yeah, we'll see how he kind of leads back into it because I think the way initially it was set up in No Way Home is like I think Doctor Strange made a comment of like, okay, looks like we're gonna have to take you to Taj or something like that to allude to it,
Mm-hmm.
being that of course the spell happened at the end, kind of took his ticket from
Yeah,
entering Taj, but we'll probably revisit that at some point.
yeah. Okay, so post credits. Wait, before post credits.
Yeah.
Sorry. Say before the credits hit. Throughout this movie, well, not really throughout the movie. At the beginning of the movie, Wong has pretty much been asking for respect. He is the Sorcerer Supreme, and Doctor Strange is just it's like, no, I'm Strange. You're Wong. We're friends. Let's keep it at that. And he made it a point to where he's just like, you see that they bow.
Custom.
People usually bow to Sorcerer Supreme. So fast forward now to the end of the movie, we finally get that bow from Doctor Strange. We get that respect. So I thought that was pretty cool because Wong is
Yeah.
cool. Wong's a badass. Why not?
And something I think it kind of follows that journey of him realizing like he doesn't always have to wield the knife, right?
Right.
He doesn't have to be sorcerer supreme like other people are capable. It's kind of like finally, because he had such a huge ego in Doctor Strange, like it's him kind of finally getting to that men's of like, what, like people can do good and it doesn't just have to be me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cool. I loved how he's been bitter for a while because in No Way Home, I think it was Ned is like, I thought you were the Sorcerer Supreme. And he's like, because of the technicality and was gone for 5 years.
Right.
Apparently they stripped that title from me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And before we do get into the, kind of scenes following, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts or predictions on how Wanda's going to come back into the scene? Like, do you think she actually died? Do you think there's a different like dimension of a Wanda that's going to end up being crucial to 616? What are your thoughts?
I have no idea. I'd like this whole thing of where's Vision? You know what I'm saying? This is like I feel like we need something to kind of conclude WandaVision just as uh let's say as a notion, as a story, not because we got the show right, but we haven't legit got the love story of Wanda and Vision. And is that necessarily because did it never happen in the comics? Did they not have a moment to where they were living all lovey dovey?
They, I mean, at least the ones I've seen a lot. This is one of those characters I've definitely divin a divin.
I can't even help you there.
I
Delve.
dove deeper into
Oh.
delved. I don't know. I dove deeper into these comics, and most of them end in tragedy. Like many of her major storylines lead in her killing Vision, killing X-Men, killing the Avengers, and her losing it, which is being a fan of that, very satisfying to see her kill off
Mm-hmm.
the Illuminati in this film. But
Mm-hmm.
they do, and like the moment that kind of comes to mind is there is like a moment to where it's after the White Vision story. During that time, like Wanda does find partnership in Wonder Man, who is the main brainwaves of Vision in the comics,
Right.
and which makes sense, right? Like it makes sense for there to be a commonality there. And eventually Vision does come back in full form, but by then Wanda's kind of moved on. She's like, I'm happy, and I want you to find that happiness as well. Like I think Wonder Man and I work because he's like you, but he's not you. And so here is my brainwave so you can find love with someone who's like me, but not
But
me.
you told me like when we did that breakdown, it wasn't really like her, and that's where I'm sad. Like when you ask me what I think, I feel like if anything, the way these movies are going, Wanda may have died. 616 Wanda probably died, and we're never gonna get a good conclusion between her. Yeah, a
Resolution.
resolution between her and White Vision. You know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, like
yeah.
historically in the comics, it never ends pretty. Like in the Vision storyline, which is what I referenced, it seems like Wanda ends in a harmonious place or like finds peace,
Mm-hmm.
but and then Vision kind of deals with his own trauma. Like you said, like, the android who's like Wanda but not Wanda kills a lot of freaking people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big mess. It's a slaughter. But so whatever we see in the comics, like at least one of them, or I think we're always gonna leave with a taste of like despair and sadness for what could have been, but ultimately never will be. Um, and yeah, like I mean, we have to find some resolution between the two characters. I know Elizabeth Olsen has had a couple of interviews where she does, you know, not make suggestions of there being like some form of that
Right.
in future films,
Mm-hmm.
but she does make comments of like I hope they do find like have another moment on screen together at some point.
Yeah.
um and although the White Vision has regained its memories, from things I've been hearing, it doesn't necessarily mean he's fully the Vision.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there is some lenience, or yeah, lenience in him not searching out for her sooner,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of him being on his own path. But it leaves the door open. But Vision aside, we know Elizabeth Olsen will come back. There's been like she speaks in interviews like this is definitely not the end. So we know that for a fact.
Do we?
And so it's
Do we?
yes,
Because
we do.
we know a lot of things for a fact, like certain people not being in certain movies, and then boom, here they are. They could just be saying that to throw us off without spoiling the movie, telling us that she actually died in the movie.
could be, but the thing is, they've been so careful about that in the past. Like people say they're not in the films, and they are in the films. Like, why would they say or make do the opposite of making it seem like they will continue in films and then not? Like, I think that's kind of a big offense. You know, like they don't necessarily need to respond to questions in a way that would lead to that. You know, they could just be like, you know what, I don't know, I'm not too sure what the future holds for this character or whatever. But you know, I'm gonna quote my cousin who just I think stated it perfectly. She says, she's like, bad bitches don't die. She's gonna come back. She's gonna be here. It's gonna continue.
Mm-hmm.
But then the question is it going to kind of almost diminish the sacrifice she made by being like, actually, she's not dead.
Mm-hmm.
She's still here. Resurrection is a thing. So
Oh,
maybe
man,
this is how
Egypt.
we get it.
Let's keep it on. Let's keep it in Africa. I'm with that. I don't want to bring that over here to Wondergore or Wanda. You know what I'm saying? But
Well, also in the comics, like there's Agatha, because she is like a mentor of Wanda in the comics.
uh
Like Wanda needs her assistance in something, so she does like a séance very similar to what we see in like the film where she kind of does like the dream
mm-hmm,
walking.
mm-hmm,
And so maybe there's some element of that where we don't get her fully, but there's like somehow, I mean, we're going to get Agatha Harkness
mm-hmm.
coming through. I think I did see something say that
Yeah, she has her
Elizabeth
own show.
Olsen's not going to be in it.
Mm.
Yeah. But you know, like maybe at some point we see someone trying to speak from her to her like beyond the grave.
Mm.
So it's not a resurrection, but maybe we still get her presence in that sense. Who's to say? We're not sure just yet.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to the
Yes.
post credit scenes? Great.
Okay, that was rude.
I'm sorry. No, it's just like because like I'm dreading just getting ready to talk about this, just
I
because
understand.
as far as post credit scene number 1 is concerned. Strange. He's at the sanctum in regular clothes. He's not in his sorcerer gear. Goes for a walk. And in this walk, he can't even make it a block without screaming in agony, right? And then boom, the eye that we saw on the strange that he battled appeared in the middle of his head. Okay. Cut scene. End scene.
That's where it should have ended.
that's where that's where the movie should have ended. Like, oh shit. He got an eye now. I guess we'll have to wait until the next movie to see how he overcomes this eye, because we already think the eye is an evil thing. Me, I'm thinking it's an evil being, but who
Yeah.
knows? Now, some credits roll by. Boom. Second post credit scene. He is it similar? He's walking down the street again, and then this other character kind of pops up. Talk to me. What happened in the second one?
Oh, first of all, I think the first thing we saw, I want to say it's just a continuation from when he fixes the watch and he's walking out. We think he's happy, go lucky, and then the eye comes out. I think that was
Yeah.
not a post-credit scene, but this all of a sudden, like, so the character that comes through the portal, Dark Dimension, her name is Clea. She is the sorcerer supreme of the dark dimension. She's also the niece of Dormammu. She's a love interest of Doctor Strange in the comics. They do marry at some point. They divorce, and when Doctor Strange does die, this is actually a really recent comic. She does take over as sorceress supreme in the on Earth, right? She arrives and she's just like, "There's an incursion. You must come." And Stephen Strange, is just like, let's do it. Like it's just
I'm
it's
ready.
so out of character. Oh, it's like it's honestly it's probably my least favorite like post credit scene I've ever seen. Like I'm
Yeah.
uh
Like I was like, so he's mastered the eye? Is the eye a part of him now? Like, wait, for one, shout out to Charlize Theron. I love you. You're awesome. In terms of like women in action films, she's like a good like action female lead. So boom, bring her into the Marvel universe. I'm all in. You know what I'm saying? But the way uh that we bring her in is just like she comes It's like, hey, you cause an incursion, and then boom, slices midair, opens a little gateway into the dark dimension, to where I don't even think we got an explanation even in the first Doctor Strange as far as how to bring the dark dimension. I feel like it was Caecilius. They just destroyed the sanctums, and boom, the dark dimension came. Now the sanctums, I'm sure, are intact and rebuilt since the events of the first Doctor Strange, and now she's able to travel to and from the dark dimension however she feels.
And last time we talked about like distinction, well, whether there is a distinction between dimensions and multiverses. And actually, I kind of, because I know last time we're like, just to keep it clean, let's just say they're interchangeable. And it seems like they are not, because even in Doctor Strange, it's like they're able to go into the dark dimension. We have the quantum realm, which is somewhat of a dimension in itself.
Mm-hmm.
We have pocket dimensions that we know, like Egyptian gods. What we're going to see, the Olympic gods and everything going to. So dimensions seem to be very different than different universes, and it seems to be accessible.
That's what I was thinking. I thought that
Yeah,
was my point, and you were just like, "Well,
nah,
suck it. I'm gonna use it interchangeably." I was like, "All right,
because it's a
Chris."
little messy. No, 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 like it's a little messy, and I think you asked because it's like there was some like interchangeable comments of it, and it's so like I mean it should be cut clean, especially with certain terms. Like for example, like you know variation or not variations variance like is a very specific term. Mutants is a very specific term.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't use these terms for something that's not within that description, right?
Right.
And so I think the same thing is like there should be, especially with the new phase, like these should be very cut and clean where we can understand them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think moving forward we'll hold to that standard. So if they're not using them correctly, I think that's a red flag of lack of continuity. And so it did help, I think, this scene in terms of like definitively being like, okay, this is the separation of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I don't the execution's just sloppy because first of all, Doctor Strange isn't someone to easily just be trusting, and just be like, I don't know who you are, Dark Dimension, hell yeah, let me just jump into this
Right.
portal,
Right.
This isn't Revenge from Dormammu that potentially like no, like it's and on top of it, it's like when you leave with him screaming and just coming the shock factor, like very Sam Raimi, like with the eye kind of popping out,
Yeah.
and then he's just cool with it and seems like he uses it like a sidekick. Like it just, yeah, it's
I got
so
my
it's
eye.
so bad.
Check it out. I'm ready.
It's like it's so. Was that you?
Yeah, that was me. Like
That was
the eye
good.
popping up.
That was
Yep.
good. That was good. It's just like it is the worst. Like and listen, like this is me watching it the first time around. Like I'm salty because of the things we talked about last episode, and so with this, I'm like, ugh, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
so done. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was such a bad way to finish the film. Like yes, I think the second end credit scene kind of helped a little bit. That was nice, but this one was just not it. I love the casting. Like to have her come into the
Yeah.
MCU is like it's like Angelina coming through, like it's
Mm-hmm.
a great casting and I'm excited to see it down the road. The
Definitely.
costume is very resembling of the comics. I kind of hope they change it for the next time we see her a little bit, but it was a cool introduction to the character.
Like
Like to see her.
her, Charlize Theron, as an actress, it shows me that her, along with Christian Bale, the woman who played Hela, it's like we have all of these A-listers, and they're not afraid of playing these like comic book characters, because I'm sure there are people that are just too good to to be in a Marvel movie. They're like, "What? You want
Jennifer
me?
Aniston.
Like you want me to be in a Marvel movie?" And like Charlize, she's like, "Oh, Marvel? Yeah. I'll take that check, but at the same time, I'm going to give you the action Charlize that So
Mm.
I'm just happy that she's in it, and she's not too good to play in a movie like this, especially a silly movie like Doctor Strange.
And something, it's like, yeah, it's like the scene was so bad that I almost didn't feel as excited to see her. But it's like I love her and I am excited for her to be in the film. But I feel like that just kind of shows how bad this end credit scene was, that I was so like annoyed that I couldn't even appreciate fully
Mm-hmm.
until really afterwards that she's coming into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Excited about that. Not a fan of the execution.
Yeah. All right. So that was how the movie ended. There was a second post credit scene, and that was with the actor Bruce Campbell. He finished punching himself, but it was just more so about the cameo action, and I'm glad that him and Sam Raimi's are still friends. That friends bring their friends into movies. We've seen that throughout any movie, you know. So now let's talk about ranking. Okay.
Before we move on,
Oh, my
actually,
bad.
so just with this cameo, you asked like the cameo element, I think is the cool part about it.
Mm-hmm.
But also because like in the Sam Raimi like Spider-Man, he was meant to be Mysterio. Like we see him show up in different characters
Mm-hmm.
in the Spider-Man original, like well, the Sam Raimi
Right.
versions. And the reason he plays different characters throughout the films is because he was meant to be revealed as Mysterio down the road, and we never got that.
Oh,
There was
wow.
gonna be, and then like in Sam Raimi we have a Doctor Strange reference, like so because of that, that cameo means more than just like, oh, this is cool because we see, Sam Raimi with like, a very Sam Raimi actor because we see him in different projects. So, like, that did help, I think, kind of ease the pain of the previous end credit scene. But it was a very cool kind of cameo to have for multiple reasons.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. All right. You ready now?
I'm ready.
All
I'm ready.
right. So, we finally got an update to the list. They added Doctor Strange. Finally, I don't know what took them so long, but it's here. And um, before we even place it, I'm just gonna give you some groups here. So, say right now, would you place Doctor Strange in top 20?
Well, how many films are there now?
28.
28. I mean, what are the bottom eight that we have?
Okay, so right now, cause I'll give you the seven because Doctor Strange is placed at 28 because it's new, but after 20, which was Avengers: Age of Ultron, then we have 21 Captain America: The First Avenger, 22 Ant-Man and the Wasp, 3 Captain Marvel, 24 Thor, 25 Eternals, 26 The Incredible Hulk, and 27 Thor: The Dark World.
See, I kind of feel comfortable putting it maybe above Captain Marvel. Like that's kind of where I feel like it fits. Just because the films like Ant-Man and the Wasp, I actually really enjoyed. Like there wasn't anything severely irky about it, and so like I kind of feel like that's where I would put it, but I'd like to hear your opinions, and I'm open to kind of moving her around.
Uh, moving Captain Marvel around?
Moving
Oh,
Multiverse of
okay.
Madness around,
So
like yeah.
right now you have it at 23. Now, I was like, I say I'm shocked right now because say after like if the the 1 through 20, I was just like, okay, would you put Doctor Strange in top 10? But right now, you wouldn't even put it in top 10.
As an entirety of the film, I just wouldn't. If I could just pull the elements that I loved,
Right.
because like I said, the things that were good were amazing, but we can't just rate it off of the good parts. We have to kind of rate it
As a
overall as a
movie.
film,
Mm-hmm.
and being based on how I left in the feelings after watching it, and knowing that a lot of people just feel the same way, like I have to take that into consideration when I'm kind of weighing it against other films.
I'm just perusing the the ones above, and it's though these movies even 1 through 20 are hard to beat. Um, let's say starting at 15 to 20. 15 is Black Widow, 16 Captain America: The Winter Soldier. For me, I think honestly that should have been higher, but then we have 17 Guardians Volume 2, 18 First Doctor Strange, 19 Iron Man 3, and 20 Ultron. So let me ask you, you believe that do you believe the first Doctor Strange is still better than this Doctor Strange?
I do. Like as an entire film, I feel like Doctor Strange, the first one, had a matched the expectation that was set. I think it just was a little bit more cohesive. There's nothing that makes me upset about it. Whereas this one has like severe elements that weren't up to par. And so that's, yeah, I would say the first one was better as an overall film.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not mad at 23, okay? Say if it comes down to below 23. I think honestly the only thing below 23 that I've kind of argued about before, but we don't have to bring up is the Incredible Hulk. I
Would you
feel
say you like that better than like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness?
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
wouldn't have rated it so low, and if anything, I would have I would have put if we're gonna talk, let's say below Ant-Man and the Wasp, below 2022, I would say the Incredible Hulk is better than the last six.
Okay. And you know something, you know, we mature as humans.
Mm-hmm.
We get smarter. We evolve. We can always revisit, I think, the overall ranking, but the way we have it right now, that could be a whole nother episode. Like maybe when we rank like the TV shows, I feel like that would be kind of good time to revisit, see if there's anything we feel like we want to manipulate.
Okay.
But like as of now, like if we were to put it, say, like underneath Incredible Hulk, would you, is that kind of where you want it, or how do you feel?
I would just I'm putting in the bottom six. I would put it at the top of the bottom six,
Okay, I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with it.
and
And
then
you know the
Strange follows
reason,
that.
yeah, like I'm comfortable with that just because, and like I said, we can always revisit and see how comfortable we feel with the rankings we've had so far. But I'm cool with that placement because, as a Marvel film, like we said, like 7.5 was the highest. We feel really like genuine in rating it out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really only the bottom five that are severely cut away from the quality of all the other films. So even if it's a very low ranking, it doesn't mean that like it's a bad thing,
Right, right.
because of how well like their what's their like track record is,
Correct.
so I'm cool with that. I'm cool with kind of that placement. I think that balances well. And in terms of like maybe if there's certain film, and this actually might be a good benchmark for reassessing kind of where we stand on other films, and maybe we can kind of bring up Hulk a little higher on that, based on those things.
I
So
would say
um
like we can talk about that later. Even though say you can see my green. It was more so for the first part of our 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 stream today. We're talking about She-Hulk, and of course She-Hulk bringing back those actors from this movie. I feel like anybody who watches it today, and especially if they're watching the show at the same time, they may bring it up a little higher. So we revisit it and maybe bring it up. But as of right now, I'm okay with where it is, even if it's the top of the bottom six.
cool. Okay, we'll set it there.
Okay.
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Man, like that is so sad because I think, like, dude, before this movie aired, we were like, is this gonna battle our number one spot?
Right.
And for it to hit so low, I think is a good signal of just where the faults of this film.
Do you off the top? Do you know who directed No Way Home?
I can look it up. Quick look, quick search.
Because I know it's not the Russos, but as of right now, the Russos, their movies are up there. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that No
Uh,
Way Home is number one, they need to give that director more movies. You know what
more
I'm
movies.
saying?
John Watts.
Okay.
John Watts.
Okay. Yeah.
And did you hear? I think it's who and who are coming together. I think it's for Agatha House of Harkness. The directors of Loki and WandaVision are coming together to start molding that. Or no, I think it's for Loki.
Okay.
Those two are coming back, I believe. But so, I mean, being that this film did kind of fall short, it makes us worried because, now going into that second decade of the MCU, it does beg to question something that's pretty fair is how long can these last?
Mm.
And, for us being devoted fans, it's a scary thing to question. But with shaky films like Eternals and Multiverse of Madness, it makes me worry. Like, luckily we have so many great, like, say, TV shows. And if, say, that's where this continues to live, I don't think I'd be angry with it.
Here's
But
here's
it's
here's the thing with that. Sorry to interrupt, but this is let's say talking about Strange and the Eternals. I'm gonna say it was a lot for the directors to create a masterpiece. The Russo brothers. They are a talent to manage so many different characters and make a good movie out of it. But I can imagine having like say a team of 10 people being hard to manage and direct, to and on top of that coming out with it with a great movie. So it's just like having those type of expectations, maybe that's a fault on either you or me. Maybe we should, as much as we see from these trailers and we hope for all these predictions to be true, maybe we need to set our expectations just a little bit lower just so we're never really disappointed like that. Just because I get it. I sent Grace a text saying that um we hold Marvel to a standard, which as of right now and with their track record, I believe to be true because they've kept to that standard. But um, at the end of the day, like you mentioned, if they continue with these shows that we've loved, right, and somehow, if anything, find a way to successfully uh, manage a movie that has a TV tie-in, then I feel like we'll feel better. This was just like a movie to where they kind of dropped the ball with the TV tie-in, and we talked about that in our last episode. But if they can find a way to kind of tie this all together, because I can continue to say it as of right now, since Thanos, there is just a lot out there, and there's nothing tying it up. So if they can find a way for us to be satisfied by tying it all together, then I think we'll be all right.
agreed, agreed. And that's kind of like one of the, like, I think it aligns with my point as well. It's like being that this was the first tie-in and it didn't blow us out of the water. Like, it's just shaky, I mean, yes, like the Marvel, like, track record still is sufficient, evidence to be like, what, like, we will be okay. And I don't mean to get all ominous, but it also is like I hope I do not live through the day where this is over and it's done, and they close the door on this. But
Mm-hmm.
um on the note of positivity and on the note of these stories continuing, this saga continuing, and us kind of getting excited for this huge, 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 like, battleground of all these characters kind of coming together and being sharing the screen. This movie very much kind of confirms for a lot of us that Secret Wars seems to be the big, big event that's going to end this saga. And who knows when that comes around? Like, we're really very early on, right?
Mm-hmm.
In just this phase still, I think. Or maybe halfway. But even then, we have a couple years before we do it. But looking at Secret Wars, so I did send in just a couple things from the very first issue.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of made it my mission that I'm going to try.
hold on. I'm messing up real quick just because I'm clicking through all these past backgrounds. So no, we're here now. Okay, I'm good. Just because one of the backgrounds that I'm using today has the images of the Secret Wars that you sent me.
Okay, Cool, cool.
Yeah.
So I've kind of made it my mission, being that this will be an event that seems to be wrapping up, will be wrapping up this huge saga. I'm trying to finish up the Secret Wars, the 2015 12 issues, and then also the 1977 run. And so these are just a couple of snippets. It's the cover of the first issue of
Mm-hmm.
like the newer 2015 one. And let me just pull it up on my end. Where are my images? So basically the premise I think can be just outlined within that first few frames. The multiverse is dying. Only two universes remain. Today, Earths collide. And this is basically pinning Earth 616 and Earth 1610 against each other. The premise is that there's been this huge incursion. All other realities, universes are done, and these two are going to battle it out to see what will be the remaining and sole universe to remain. And there's this, I thought that was really cool. It shows like the cast, and it kind of divides up the main characters, at least in this first issue, I believe, from like the 616 lineup and the 1610 lineup. And just looking at a couple of these divisions, like one of the things I wanted to bring up is there's a lot of characters that we're seeing on here that are like newcomers into this phase, which I think adds to this evidence of this being like the big event to end the saga.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have Black Bolt, we have Jane Foster's Thor, Iron Fist is on there, and I thought that was cool because I know we had a huge discussion on Iron Fist just in general, like when
Mm-hmm.
we did our Shang-Chi thing. And Fantastic Four. So this is the first time that we've had a cinematic mention of Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman having like children, which we talked could maybe be suggestive because John Krasinski, his Reed Richards made mention of like his wife, which maybe is a nod to potentially his wife in real life, making that role,
Mm-hmm.
but also the children. Like that is the first time we've heard of the children. It could be alluding to just like his lineage, which is also somewhat suggestive to Kang the Conqueror. But they're part of that Fantastic Four lineup in this series. So I wonder if they'll also kind of maybe be part of like the Young Avengers who ultimately, come into this big battle. And so there's just a lot of fun things to kind of see. There was another thing I wanted to bring up on this.
Wait, can
Um,
you tell me something about like because it's in Earth 1610 it says the ultimate universe. So is this just like do you know this to be just like a universe to where it's just is quote unquote ultimate? You know, it's just overpowering.
okay, so for the Earth 616, first of all, so that's meant to be like the main base comic timeline, the main comic universe that we've explored.
Mm-hmm.
All other ones kind of have followed, just to give way to different characters or different adaptations of characters we've known. And I'm not too sure if maybe that is the premise of it. I will say, in just starting to read this issue, we have Reed Richards, which in this case is the maker, and he seems to be like a very elite form beyond any kind of Reed Richards we've seen in any cinematic adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that is suggestive of like kind of maybe the ultimate quote unquote of this universe.
Okay.
It may just be like the way they call Thor the Mighty Thor and the Invincible,
I
like
got you.
whatever, like the
Yeah.
Incredible Hulk. So I'm not too sure about that just yet.
Okay.
But it's just cool. Like I'm excited to see this team up, this lineup, and being that this is around, relatively around the corner, leaving this on the air of positivity, it's cool to see such a map out for us nerds to have that faith and trust that this is gonna last a very long time. And we know that they just recently went on this retreat for 10 years. Who knows if it's to clean up some of the things from Doctor Strange or if it's just to make sure that everything we have coming forward is just, you know, living up to that MCU standard.
I uh I just want to end this on some hope, okay? Just because I believe Feige he knows what we want, you know? And yes, there may be some duds here or there, but so far like you said, we've had a successful track record. I don't think we've peaked yet just because of how these shows are coming out, you know? So, and these shows are let's say for instance as far as each episode is almost an hour. So that's 6 hours of footage, you know. So say that versus a 2.5 hour movie. I feel like if anything, with the right writing and the right direction, we'll be all right, you know. And we'll continue to get what we've been getting television wise, and I'm sure we'll continue to get films that we can now put or later put into, maybe let's say, the top 10. You know, it's just right now this list is just so solidified with what everything that we have now. So I'm just gonna say Doctor Strange was Doctor Strange. We enjoyed bits of it, and I'm looking forward to the future of the MCU.
We got a lot of things coming up, a lot of exciting things. And so, despite this one lacking a little bit, we got Miss Marvel around the corner, which looks amazing. We have Thor, Love and Thunder, and we're excited to break that down once it comes. By the way, did you hear that Thor, Love and Thunder is like an hour and something time run? Like it's under 2 hours. Did you hear that?
No, but I mean, they don't all have to be 2 hours. You know, if you can give me a good story and in less than two, you know, if I go to a midnight show, I'm not looking to, because we're gonna get like 30 minutes of previews, so I'm not looking to be up sometimes to like 2:30 or 3 all the time. So if Thor is like an hour and a half, hour 45, give it to me. I'm with it.
Dude, it's so interesting though, because that's like an episode and a half of a
Right,
series, you
right.
know? But Thor, they know the formula. It's like you said, they do truly know what we want, you know? And so I think with something like Thor and like the touch and sprinkle of Guardians of the Galaxy, I think I'm gonna be happy. We're gonna be happy. But this is a nice little wrap up. We're what, running on almost 3 hours. We're
Well,
at
no,
two and
no,
a
no.
half.
Yeah, we're still, yeah, we're just kind of passing that mark of our last show. We're at 2.5 right now, so
All right.
killing it.
Got
Oh,
endurance
my
going
bad.
on.
Hold on, didn't mean to leave you hanging. Bop, there it is. All right. So this was episode 34 of the Comic Cinematic Universe, and we will be back next week. And Grace, I know I kind of gave you some homework. Have you started that as far as watching a certain show?
I'm not gonna lie, I forgot.
She
I
forgot.
have I have potentially my memory is really bad.
Okay.
We're getting diagnosed, don't you worry.
Man,
I'm gonna start on it.
listen, okay, just because as much as we love Marvel, I just know that we've talked a lot about it lately, and DC, we've already discussed how DC's dropped the ball, but now I'm kind of ready to kind of get going in June with talking about something a little bit more fresh, which we're going to start talking about the show The Boys. So season 3 is coming out, I think, June 3rd, and I'm super ready for it and ready to break it down for y'all on here. So,
Listen, I was able to finish all of Game of Thrones in 3 weeks.
oh shit.
Almost died doing it. I can get it done. Don't you worry. Don't you
It's
worry.
only 2 seasons, okay? So you can knock it out.
Easy.
Yeah, you got it. You
Easy.
got this.
Child's play.
All right. Well, Grace.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. This
Yeah,
is a
Grace,
great
you have a good
episode.
weekend, and yeah, great episode. And everybody else, y'all have a great weekend. So, bye. Catch y'all later.
Deuces.
Bye, Grace.